it's no longer about losers and gainers. The formula has been deferred for the last 1 year, contrary to the Constitution. So, the chair of the Finance Committee, Charles Kibiru, does not appear in the House, prompting the lead of the majority, Samuel Pogisio, to ask the Speaker to defer the vote. Speaker raises up to say, okay, so for this reason, I am directing that the House adjourns until Tuesday. A number of senators now start heckling him and saying, no, 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 shame, shame, shame. They get out of their chambers and they meet with gleefully waiting media where they address them and they say, you know what we've just seen there is a travesty. One of them, Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. of Makueni, says we should impeach Lusaka for adjourning the Senate unlawfully. How do you adjourn the House without a mover, a seconder, and putting out the question?
Did he have good reason to adjourn the proceedings?
Well, he could see the mood.
Yeah, exactly. He could see that things were going south really quick.
He could see whatever you're seeing here, this is not consensus.
Yeah.
You're just going to have a vote where you shall say that, yes, we are the majority and we voted and we won, and you're still going to have a disquiet. This kind of thing requires you to get to a consensus where all of you agree, okay.
I would have assumed that this is where those offline discussions take place.
Yep.
So that by the time you actually get to the Assembly Hall, the Senate Hall, these matters have been ironed out.
Yeah.
Because I doubt, should the Senate, the floor of the Senate be the place where you're now ironing out these issues?
Yep. Basically, this is why the Speaker has been calling these meetings, the informal meetings, saying, meet offline before we come to the chamber, before we come and bring this to the vote. It appears that those informal meetings where the senators that we've talked to keep telling us that we are rushing to this meeting because we need to discuss this matter, caucusing and all, is not working. The Standard has learned that most senators prefer a consensus that does not divide them and propose an extra 16 billion shillings to plug the gap for counties that will not gain under the proposed formula. It's unfortunate that the vote was postponed because the sponsors realized they could not have their way. The more they defer the vote, the more the opposition solidifies their base. See, it becomes now an opposition solidifying base and one wing trying to push this thing down the throat.
And while this is happening,
still
money is not going to the counties.
Yep.
Salaries are not being paid.
A crucial bill has not been discussed.
Exactly.
The county revenue allocation bill.
Will not be discussed until consensus is reached.
Yes.
This is the problem, that while this impasse continues, there are things that are suffering in the balance, unfortunately.
There was a proposal by Nairobi Senator Johnson Sakaja, who was proposing amendments to the Finance and Budget Committee report on shareable revenue. The proposal, he says, my proposal was the solution to the impasse. No county was going to lose. We had agreed with Mutula Kilonzo Jr. and Ledama Olakina. However, the Speaker decided to adjourn the special sitting without following procedure, which denied the majority leader the chance to complete his presentation. He's arguing that the Gazette notice was very clear and stated the order of the day. Now they're going into procedure. Oh, how was this?
In short, they are going to stick to their guns.
Yeah, and it's a bit exhausting just thinking about it at this point because it's necessary. If somebody's trying to prove a point...
Now, the good thing is that this conversation is happening.
Oh, I think the deliberations are extremely important.
This is good. Let there be, push, pull, grandstanding. At some point, you realize that we are not going to pass anything until we reach a consensus. And I think that's the most important bit.
Sure.
There should be consensus.
Might take a while, though.
However long it takes, let them slip there.
All right.
But they need to arrive at a consensus, because if they don't arrive at a consensus and they rush this thing because we are seeing that July is coming to an end and we still haven't decided on this, then we're going to have a new formula that comes in for a number of years and people will be grumbling about it for years to come. We're going to an election with this formula. It will be a campaign issue.
For sure.
It will be a campaign issue. And the senators understand this better than most people, because there are quite a number of senators who I'm certain will be vying for some
governor positions.
Yes. And this is how you begin your campaign.
Yep.
By saying, I brought you this money you didn't have.
Hakukuwa na hii pesa, I brought
No,
it.
kama si mimi,
Yep.
pesa hata haingekuja.
Yep. Another headline. Ndu.
So 791 million has made its way back into the headlines. Court orders seizure of NYS suspects' assets. The fate of those accused of stealing 791 million in the 2015 National Youth Service scandal, notoriously referred to as NYS-1, took a turn for the worse after the High Court ordered the seizure of 2 properties and 4 high-end vehicles. The assets were associated with the tenderpreneur associates of Miss Josephine Kabura, the woman at the center of the ongoing criminal case. The court, for the second time in the emerging jurisprudence on illegally acquired wealth, said a criminal conviction is not a necessary precondition for civil forfeiture and marked the properties as proceeds of crime. Interestingly, the 8 suspects in the NYS scam elected not to defend the case brought up by the Assets Recovery Agency before High Court Judge Mumbi Ngugi. Among the suspects are Anthony Gethi, his mother Charity Gethi, and sister Jadida Wangari Wangoi. It just goes on to talk about those involved. And now they see that, the monies that were taken, as that is still continuing in its investigation, there is a way then now to turn the screws on those who've been alleged to have stolen these funds or been part of the thievery.
I like a statement that is attributed to Justice Ngugi. And it's really, it says that the Asset Recovery Agency has established on a balance of probabilities that the properties subject to the application were acquired using funds fraudulently obtained from the NYS. Can you hear me now? Okay. It's the wording of it. Very interesting.
Say again.
That the Asset Recovery Agency has established on a balance of probabilities. That's what caught my attention. On a balance of probabilities, meaning there was this, there could be this, there could be this, but balancing all of these things, that the properties subject to the application, these were acquired using funds fraudulently obtained from the NYS.
Here how the money went. So, according to court records, 3 companies, Form Home Builders, Roof and All Trading, and Reinforced Concrete Trading, received 281, 252, and 320 million shillings, respectively, from the NYS. The companies are all linked to Josephine Kabura. The court heard that Kabura sent Cargo some 381 million shillings, done in collusion with Cargo, Ben Gethi, and some staff of Family Bank, KTDA, Plaza Branch. The maisonette situated at Kasarani, the court had belonged to Mwadime. And Mwadime here is one of those that are going to lose something. He belonged to Mwadime and was bought for 21.8 million shillings. He drew his wife Mkiwa into the matter after registering the house under her name. Mwadime had been arraigned in the magistrate's court alongside Gethi for the loss of NYS monies. To Mwadime, the court heard that Kabura deposited 40 million shillings at an account at Family Bank. Mwadime then approached one Tyrus Kamau and his wife Esther Ndenya and bought off their house at 21 million shillings. He remained with a Kalu's 20 million. Criminal investigations revealed that funds embezzled from NYS were fraudulently transferred to various bank accounts. Mwadime is also said to have bought a plot in Juja worth about 4 million shillings. So 20 plus 4 is 24.
Usually.
He then bought a car worth 3.3 million shillings. 24 plus 3.3,
27.3.
27.3. Balance is about 13 million. And then later changed ownership to Mr. Kisingo. The court heard that the first car, Toyota Prado, was worth 5.25 million, was bought by Kihara and under the name of Gethi's Pointman. It later found its way to Paul Gashoka. The second car, another Prado at 5 million shillings, bought by Kihara under the name of Cargo. Tracing the monies. Tracing the monies. And this is all there. And there's an infographic on the Standard on 381 million shillings wired to John Kagondongo. From there, John Kagondongo sends 6.1 million shillings to Ben Gethi for 2 Toyota Prados. Right? And then money is sent to Mr. Samuel Mwadime. He buys a house worth 21 million shillings in Kasarani. Spends 4 million shillings to buy a plot. Spends some money to buy vehicles and then transfers the vehicles. All that forfeited.
Yeah, well, like we said,
Long overdue.
the screws are being tightened. It's long overdue. It's happening though. They talk about the wheels of justice turning slowly, but turning all the same. it'd be interesting to see where this comes out.
Mm-hmm.
If they start with the recovery of assets, still a criminal case, so your assets could be recovered, and you could still find yourself, as you say,
Not only that, you
being
may
a guest of the state.
a scholarship. You may actually even be a governor, and you
Could
have
lose your
lost your seat, and they will still come after your assets.
Yep.
And by the way,
I think the asset recovery, this is where
no, this
was
is
landmark.
yes, and this, in my opinion, is where it should have arrived at,
Because that's when now Kenyans start feeling that there's justice.
yes.
Stole and it's now being taken away
Back.
from you.
Good.
This is it.
But the people who are going to be at the center of this will be governors,
Well,
more than anybody else. Governors.
Why?
Because they are directly responsible for those monies that come to their counties.
Yeah.
Directly.
Yeah. 6:30. Let's take a look at the traffic. Good morning.
24/7.
all right, Outer Ring roundabout for Friday. It's actually looking good right about now. It's likely to clog up later though, because it's going to be busy, people in and out. Namanga Road, Kitengela traffic coming down Mombasa Road is not looking too bad. Looking pretty good from where we see it. Komarak Road traffic is flowing. Without an issue there at all, as is Kangunda Road toward Outer Ring in Mombasa, in Umoja. And Mombasa Road, like we said, smooth for now, all the way into town inbound. This is what people are wishing would always be the case. We'll see how that may change later on, but now it looks pretty good. Getting into the city centre from Thika Road also will not be too much of a headache right around this hour. We'll see what it looks like in about 30 minutes or so, but for now, if you wanted to get into the CBD, via Thika Road, it would not be too bad. Now would be the time to get out, as it were. All right, so we'll look at different parts of the city in a short while, but for now it looks pretty good. When the sun starts to creep through the clouds there, we'll probably have an idea of how good or bad traffic might be today. Let us know what you see as well. Run into anything that would be important to let others know about. Talk to us on Spice FM KE on Twitter.
We're taking a look at the newspaper headlines of the big stories of the day this morning. 26 minutes to 7 o'clock. This is the Situation Room. In the room, Eric Latif, Nduoko, City, Muga. You've got like all the papers in front of you, City.
Yes.
Publisher
I do.
Muga.
Now, earlier on, I was...
Come to the mic, City.
Earlier on, I was smirking a little bit. And what I was smirking about, it wasn't one thing really. It was two things. One was the headlines of the nation. Corner, Githu cleared 63 billion health project.
Mm-hmm.
I smirked and said, okay. Interesting point. Then I looked at the Star. It had the same story. Same story.
What does it say? What's the Star story?
Star story, I will actually read it to you so that it is clear and to the point. Former AG Githu okayed medical kits deal records show.
All right.
So we heard his side of the story yesterday.
Githu goes to the Senate
and tells
in
the
front
Senate
of the committee that's investigating this matter and
Yes.
says, this is it. Someone decides to leak documents to the media, not go to the Senate and say, no, what you heard from Githu was incorrect, but decides to leak some what is purported to be official documents.
Official documentation that authenticates Gidu's nod. Now you see, my smile or the smirk is because I'm saying the plot thickens.
Drama.
Yes, because we've heard from the former AG. We're now reading that a letter purporting something to the contrary has appeared. So, the debate has begun.
Just read some of those some excerpts from that letter. I think the Nation has it, or is it?
Yes, the Nation most certainly has it.
And it says it's very direct. If that letter was indeed authored by the former AG, it's very direct because it says, I give authority. Or it's...
Let me say, the letter, according to what we are reading, the report says, it is my opinion that the letters of support as enclosed are in a satisfactory form for execution by the National Treasury. Arising from the above, my office clears the MES contracts as well as the government letters of support as modified. Remember the issue about modification? Yes.
So basically he's saying my office clears.
My
and
office,
what is it that he had said when he appeared before the legislators? He had said that the AG's office had asked them to go and negotiate, but then still come back and seek final confirmation.
Yes, and that had not happened.
Had not been done.
And that was not done.
Essentially what they were saying was that those people actually furthered and concluded those particular negotiations without the requisite input by the office of the AG.
Yeah.
That was the input.
The state law office did not participate.
No.
At least in the final decision.
In short, they didn't give their okay.
Yeah.
That's why the story and this plot thickens.
It's thickened.
It tells you how, what kind of stakes we are dealing with here. This is a high stakes game. It's a high stakes game where somebody just sits back and says, like, what do you mean? What do you mean this is what he's saying? But here's the letter. Here, leak this letter. Why had this letter not leaked before?
Why hadn't it come up before? Why hadn't this information been, been offered previously?
Yeah.
Of course, that's a question you want to ask and say, why now?
Or why didn't this person who is leaking this letter basically go out and say, but we received this information? This is a deal that was signed by the ministry. This is a deal that was... Did the ministry ever present anything to say, but we got this?
This thing caught right in the crosshairs the former CS, Dr. Mailu, and this is what he had to say. He said that he, according to what I read in the papers, was never given permission to access the contractual documents.
By? He's the CS. He needed permission to access the contractual document.
Yes. He said he had even wondered, and this was before the Senate committee. Essentially saying, these things were signed before my time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
came into office, I found a contract already being
and
executed.
I was never given permission.
I asked, can I see this contract? No.
Actually,
this is beyond your pay grade.
It's like you're reading. It says, I remember asking for the documents. I remember. Parliament also asked me for the same documents. As a minister, I wondered what the secret was, said Dr. Mailu. Yes, who's our permanent representative to the United Nations in Geneva. I did not understand what was in the files, could not be given to the cabinet secretary. He couldn't understand. And the parliamentary committee, he couldn't understand.
Somebody basically has just been thrown under the bus here.
Clearly. Completely.
And this somebody...
This is not one bus.
This somebody is basically... This is under SGR.
Yes. This is a convoy of buses.
Yes. Pulling wagons. And you're under. What?
And then he says, my tenure at the Ministry of Health was very challenging, especially when it came to the implementation of this project. So, you're talking about the bus.
Because you are the CS,
Yep.
and yet you're not in charge of this project that's being implemented by your ministry.
Hot mess.
Then there's a saying, I believe the project whose contract was signed at State House has been cleared.
Finish.
Mine was to ensure that it was executed.
Oh, that's what he believed.
Yes. The committee can go back and get information from my predecessors.
But as far as I'm concerned,
Yeah.
Why did he have to bring State House into this thing? When are such contracts, Ministry of Health, are they signed at State House?
Basically, what he's saying is the reason when he saw that he's not getting all this information, he figured my boss must be the one in charge, right? If I'm asking for information and I'm not receiving
And I'm the
it,
CS.
and I'm the CS, then clearly my boss it must be the one in charge. So he
with
he
foresight.
made that assumption.
Also with foresight to say that in the near future, it would be that all fingers will be pointed at you. So what you do is that you throw it to somebody else and you tell you create your narrative before somebody else tells the story for you.
Yes, and he says he may assume when he got to the office that these matters surrounding this had been cleared.
As far as I knew
So
that
his job
everything
was
done.
just to execute. That one, by the way, he's not cleared.
No, it's not, unfortunately. This one in this
You're the
sense,
CS.
it doesn't work because the buck does stop with you. Right.
He can say all he likes. He can twist all he likes. He can bring in statements as often as he likes. He is not through with this matter.
I think this matter deserves more public attention.
For sure.
It does. It does.
Like proper public attention. Like
Yes.
these hearings should be happening at prime time. Forget about news. Senate should be sitting at about from 7 o'clock in the
Yes.
evening.
Let's hear.
For a couple of hours,
So
yeah.
when all of us are at home, we are just watching and saying,
Tell us.
What were you saying?
because clearly there's some matter here that is where.
It is. All right. Looking at another story here, Eric and CT. You know how we talk about things that COVID has stopped? The big cases frozen by the pandemic. The health ministry warned judges and magistrates to steer clear of courts and avoid interacting with the public to avoid the risk of cross-infection. It's been a year since the murder of businessman Tob Cohen. His wife, Sarah Wairimo, is fighting to clear her name after she was accused of having a hand in his death. A long-standing rift in the relationship between Wairimo and Cohen's siblings, Gabrielle and Bernard, was evident in a memorial placed in a daily newspaper on Monday, where they failed to recognize her as their brother's widow. The acrimony stems from the mystery of how Cohen died and ended up inside a water tank in his compound, as well as the contents of his will that are the subject of a separate dispute before the family court. Wairimo filed a case laying claim to the property she claims she co-owned with her husband. The last time the matter came up for mention was on the 12th of March, with the hearing slated to start 11 days ago on the 13th of July. There is also the matter of a murder case against the widow and her co-accused Peter Karanja, which has been disrupted by the COVID-19 pandemic. The disease has brought the wheels of justice grinding to a halt. Hundreds of cases are pending as magistrates and judges try to figure out the best way to safely dispense justice and keep all parties from contracting the virus. A June report from the Health Ministry to the judiciary warned its officers to steer clear of the courts and avoid interacting with the public to avoid the risk of cross-infection. Now, let's look at some of these cases that are still pending. There is the case against Migori Governor Okoth Bado, the Samburu Governor Moses Leno Kulal, Busia Governor Sospita Ojamong, Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko, former Kiambu Governor Ferdinand Waitito, former Treasury CS Henry Rotich, and the case against Joseph Irungu alias Joey, and of course Sarah Wairimo. Now, these are the big cases that they say have been frozen by the pandemic. In terms of when courts are going to open, the question is, when is it actually going to happen? Nobody knows. And with a surge in cases, likely that status quo will be maintained. We know that Makadara law courts were closed this week. We know that Milimani courts are being closed today. So, like we said, hundreds of cases already were in the backlog. Now, anybody that's coming after, my friend, you're going to have to wait.
Do you know what I find strange?
So they've also been told. They've also been told to embrace modern technology to dispense justice. Although some matters are being heard, albeit at a snail's pace, the majority of the cases involving public figures have been shelved. And this virtual court is not working for most magistrates and court clerks and other officials.
Okay. What I find particularly funny is this. Not funny, haha.
Funny, weird.
Funny, not haha.
Got it.
We have universities in this country that train people in ICT and other related matters from certificate to PhD. Yet these institutions of higher learning, to date, don't seem to have been able to even get their own students to actually learn effectively and efficiently online. So, the question that has been ringing in my mind is, what on earth do we teach in these universities of ours with regard to ICT? When you train people who enter the market, surely you are saying that you have sufficient manpower who can come up with something workable in the system.
For other
You're not being
sectors
asked to
of
invent,
government, right?
But even if you have to, what is so difficult? These things have been invented.
Kenya is touted as a silicon savannah.
That is a con.
Yeah. Okay.
Plain, brazen, bright-eyed con.
Why?
Bare-assed con.
Why?
Because when you become king of the hill, you have conquered the terrain that is below. Silicon Valley, as we know it, is where all these high-tech issues that bedazzle us in the world come from.
Yeah.
And we know, and you can know this one came from this one came from this, whether it's telephony, whether it's telco, whatever it is. This one of ours, where people just read and get qualifications, and it can't help the nation.
So I hear you saying that if things would have
City.
gone properly, education-wise, then there would have been an easy solution for things like this, whereby an entire court system is on its breaks now.
Is it possible, City, that there
Something
are
would
many
have
solutions,
been sorted out.
many solutions out here, but just that the people who should be implementing these solutions to at the national level are the ones who are
Brother,
sleeping
we
on the
even
job
have a ministry.
for ICT.
Ministry.
Not
Now,
department.
I'm trying to divorce two things. Divorce the issue of capacity of Kenyans in developing programs and capacity of government to absorb the knowledge that is coming from the sector. There are very many, several companies in this country that have come up with Elimu, Kitabu,
Everything.
ICT, that you can actually get information education content on your mobile phone, on simple feature phones, not these smartphones, on simple feature phones. Companies that have already done that are rolling them out in this Kenya.
Eric, you know where I took my discussion? Not where you've taken it. The university was not able to come up with a scheme to ensure that their own students, not taking them far away from home.
Just where they are.
This is where they teach these things. All these MMMs, they were taught in our universities. Okay? So, having understood that the MMMs came from our universities, private and public, how is it then that the university themselves are unable? If you have a school where you
There
teach
is no M University.
no. If you have a school which teaches agriculture, usually there'll be some earth somewhere where children go and dig. And if you say that you also have poultry, you can actually see chicken. Okay? And usually they produce eggs, which you also see. If they say they have cows, you see the cows and you even see the milk, meaning you see.
Yeah.
But this one of ours, ICT, I am aware that the commodity itself is invisible in nature, but the output is not invisible. We see it. Because right now, even now, we are communicating through such a medium right now. Okay? So it's possible.
It is.
But you cannot tell me that we have a university that talks about the advancements we have made in ICT. I'm not going to the government. How is it that every time we hear of the universities, either students have rioted or the issues of salaries which never seem to get resolved? That's what seems to be the issue.
Not the innovation that's coming out of the university.
You know, let the innovations come out clearly and let them be touted. And then,
Kimathi University is selling coffee.
yeah, we see
Why is JKUAT not selling
coffee.
laptops?
Yes.
Or mobiles?
Actually, you're right.
Or coming up
Laptops.
with coming up with a laptop
With-
that would
which
be
they use within the
market-friendly,
university.
which
With
they
applications.
use,
Yes.
and that can also be used by others
Or-
outside of the university.
Or the equivalent of something that we now use like Zoom,
Right.
a platform,
Yep.
and they say, yes, this is the platform we've come up with and which we are using. Now, that's what I'm saying.
I hear you.
Or
Let's
even
take
with
a
a
break.
simple system whereby the judiciary.
That's likely. 10 minutes to 7 o'clock. The situation is this conversation. Thanks for watching. Okay, so City, or before we come back to you, 102.5 frequency in Kisumu. There's some technical issue there. Engineers are hard at work. They'll sort it out shortly. Meantime, you can watch us on Spice FM KE, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, or www.spicefm.co.ke. One does not work, the other one will definitely work.
I have actually received a message from one of our listeners, very keen listeners, who told me that JKUR have actually produced a laptop. It's called Taifa.
Is it?
Sits in JKUR.
It's called Taifa.
They have actually brought forth one. So
Right.
now that's where now your argument becomes solid. You say, yes. But you see, if we know about it, and then we know the roadblocks of the government, that's a different discussion.
That's what I was saying. That's what I was just about to say. That's why I asked, where is it?
Must be at JKUR.
Somewhere inside.
Still parked there.
Goes back to what I was saying. These students are thinking and they're coming up with products,
Absolutely.
right? What they require is the support above that.
But what do we talk about? Really?
Roll it out into the market.
Implementation
Or
is
even
really
just the
about-
government sitting and seeing, all right, this is a very good solution that we have seen here. Let's roll it out. Let's take it up. Let's roll it out.
How long did we talk about in the lands? I think that discussion of just lands, forget about everything else. Just the lands ministry. I think it's as old as I've been here in this country. The digitization of the lands ministry, has it finished?
Right?
Okay.
It continues.
Ask that
continue.
question again and I'll give you the same response.
So that's what I'm saying. You can imagine how seamless things would be.
It wasn't meant to end.
It's kind of like when you pay dowry and never finish paying, right? It's something that just continues.
There's land transactions every day. So, I mean,
No, but no. The digitization process means that anything
Eric
that comes,
is being facetious,
I know,
Kwani.
means that anything that comes in the future, it enters into that same system. No, so I'm not saying, I'm talking about the setup. I'm not talking about the continuous process.
the digitization has very many aspects of it.
Of course.
There's first of all digitizing the records and then how to implement them. So remember, there's a time when the lands registry was closed for some time when Ngili was a minister.
Because this
for
process
lands.
was taking place.
So this
That's what we were told.
That's what was supposed to be taking place.
So this is when now it was supposed to have taken place in earnest. Okay. Various youth brought in as interns to basically just do the job of digitizing. It was opened. Then now there's a verification process that takes a couple of years. Recently, the current CS, Farida Karone, moved into the next step and said, now all land transactions from lawyers shall now be done online. Remember lawyers complaining and saying, no. I mean, we want to come and pay. We want to, and saying, no, everything now happens online. So that's what I'm saying. It's a continuous process. Go, get to a certain stage, open up the next, get to the next stage.
So from what you're saying now, that things that were done before a certain time are now all digitized.
I've not said all. As I said, continuous process.
Records though.
Yeah. Most ideally, most of the what we had as titles and all in files on paper should be.
That
in the
particular
server somewhere.
ministry, one could argue, houses some of the most emotive matters this particular country
Yeah.
is yet to come to terms with. Not has dealt with, is yet to. That ministry. Now, if you digitize it or you make it ICT friendly or technology friendly, you know what that means? It means, most records that are in that ministry are supposed to be public.
Yeah.
So just pause and think for a single second. It means sitting here, if we have something in that, we just click.
You click
check
somewhere
and
and
say,
should be
okay,
able to
LR
find it.
/.
Your number and
exactly. And I say, okay.
all the information.
And then we'll say,
comes
no, that information is not correct because according to this.
Like the way we now have with motor vehicles.
Yes.
See a motor vehicle, you just enter the registration number, it tells you who owns that car. With the registrar of companies,
Should be.
query, you get the information back. Same. But you're talking about how many millions of acres of land?
Oh my God.
Yeah, you
With the
tell me.
judiciary, however, before COVID, there was already a problem. I mean, it was coming out of different quarters, that there was a backlog, there were not enough in terms of magistrates, and this was a face-to-face. What is going to happen now with the hundreds of cases in backlog that we already see? COVID is still here. When is this ever going to be sorted out?
Let me ask you perhaps an open-ended question. Who tells you they want to sort it out?
There you go. Okay.
Whose interest does it serve?
Yes, exactly. I mean,
To have a delay.
why should it be sorted
To
out?
have recurrent delays.
Yes, why should it be sorted out?
Well,
Remember, we've had commissions and reports regarding land and property in this country. Not one, not two. Okay? matters pertaining to those things to date, to date,
Are not public.
not public, unresolved. You think that is by accident. They are emotive matters, my friend. Really, really emotive matters.
So I keep saying we need to change our land tenure system. This thing of people
That
owning
would
pieces
be
of land.
useful. That would be useful.
Don't own land.
Lease it.
Everybody leases land from the government, and specifically for a certain duration of time, for a certain purpose. If it's not in use, forget it.
Give it to somebody
But do you
else.
know what is interesting, though? That is the rule that used to apply when it came to allocation of land. Yes. That you could prove that you're going to be put that land to use.
You apply, you get, and then
Chief,
you give
you
it.
get. I, in my time, applied for such, and I actually got.
And you got.
And I got. Yes.
Are you still putting it to use?
I sold it. That's the use I put it to.
You sold it.
Yes.
See, now that's where now the system went wrong.
No, I planted stuff on it. I used it. Somebody seemed to
Should
have
have
had more use for
lease
it
should
than
have
I did.
reverted to.
No. It was actually leased, but the number of years were many.
See, that's what I'm saying. That's where the problem. Anyway, coming to the top of the hour.
Yes.
Today's proverb.
Today's proverb, I like trees. Yesterday was a palm tree. Today I'm just going to refer to a tree. Okay? If you climb up a tree, you must remember that you will climb down the same tree.
Or fall.
Mpandangazi Ushuka. Good morning. It's 7 o'clock.
Very cold and heavy fog in some parts of Mombasa Road this morning, and so it would seem that the fog is quite low and it makes cars go a little bit slower than normal. So this definitely affects traffic. Mombasa Road is moving along very slowly this morning, but it's moving along very well at this time. We don't have any clog ups so far. We'll let you know if we do. Juja Road a few minutes ago had some traffic, but the police are there trying to sort out that mess, and it shouldn't be too terrible moving forward. Traffic looks like we're going to be in good terms today, guys. This is a Friday morning. I know it's still early, but let's take a look at what it looks like. All indications so far point to that it will not be a crazy morning, but don't quote me. We'll have to wait and see how things unfurl. Spice FMKE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter. Let's know what you see.
Traffic. This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and
It's 2
elevated
minutes after
conversation.
7. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. 94.4 in Nairobi, 87.9 in Mombasa, Nakuru 96.0, 96.7 Eldoret, 97.7 in Malindi, 90.9 in Nyeri, and Kisumu 102.5. We're having some technical issues there, but they will be rectified shortly. Meantime, you can watch us on Spice FM KE, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, as well as www.spicefm.co.ke. COVID-19, 13th of March, first case. By the end of March, people had already started feeling the heat, right? By the end of April, more people had felt the heat. And this is in terms of loss of livelihoods, loss of incomes. Businesses were shut down. Even before the 13th of March, many, especially those who were working in the hospitality industry, had already been told, you know what, we are not operating, so we have to lay off our staff. So many lost their jobs. Come to the aviation sector.
Hey,
Same.
that one just shut down completely.
Completely shut down. Kenya Airways, by the time Kenya Airways was sending people home with a 70% pay cut, that was huge. You can imagine the smaller airlines as well. Same. Other organizations followed suit.
Small airlines, it wasn't even 70%. It just had no
go.
pay.
It was just
Nothing.
go home. It was just go home and wait to takwita. So now we have very many people who basically have lost their livelihoods, have lost incomes, job losses, these layoffs, serious pay cuts, and you've taken an 80% pay cut, but you're still living a 100% life.
Got it.
And you're thinking, all right, so what do we do? Then you have businesses, people who had small SMEs that were relying especially on these sectors. If you're supplying into any of these sectors, then you've also been impacted directly and immediately. So what is it that can be done? And we've been discussing this all the time. Now we need to look at, so what are the options that people would have? What can you do at this time to seek a journey towards recovery? It's not an easy one, is it, Siti?
Actually, it is most certainly not an easy one. You know, the only thing that is easy is in figuring out what someone did, because whatever you're going to do next, the knowledge you have or the training you have, the capacity you have may play a part in what you do next. Because it can't help you in what you previously did, but it might. But the real tool you have here is your mind and its versatility. Because if you do what we human beings normally do, and you focus on what you know and how that should be done, you'll be stuck. You'll be in a rut and you won't move and nothing will change. But if you're willing to open your mind and to determine, okay, what perhaps when I look around me, perhaps needs doing and no one is doing, and where have I blocked my mind to perhaps earning a living and I have not considered it as a viable path that I could open my mind to. Remember, one of the biggest hindrances to opening your mind is actually education. People who are very educated, you get your diploma, you get your degree. Without knowing it, you've already segmented in your mind things you can't do. Forget the things you can do.
Yeah.
Someone mentions it's a no before you're not even giving it and you're not even thinking about it. I can't do this.
It's interesting that you say that also. I think it's also going to require a shift, a major shift in thinking. Because you had, just like you're saying, you had people who were earning in the millions, right? And then literally it came to a halt immediately.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, okay, give it 2 weeks and then we're going to stave off. It was that you're earning something today and the next day you're not. I think then people have also come to the realization that there can be a change in status, but it really doesn't matter. If you're going to survive, that means that you now embrace other things that before you likened to things like shame. Because you lived a certain status, you would not then be able to touch that with a 10-foot pole. But I think that the realization has dawned on quite a number of people that it really doesn't matter what it is that you do. If you get something then that is going to sustain you, if you get something that's, because we're talking about putting food on the table, right? And paying for shelter and making sure that your family members are sorted out. And I think that is what has happened for a lot of people. We saw the pictures of high-end vehicles opening up to become fruit baskets to sell. Why do you think that has been? Because people have realized that it really doesn't matter what it is that you're driving at the end of the day. If you're not alive, that's when it doesn't matter. I think so. There has been a mind shift, and I do agree 100%. I think that's what needs to happen. It's not running around and looking for that contract. It's changing the idea in your mind that you can actually do something else to be able to get something in your hand. And if that shift hasn't taken for a number of people, then I think we're still getting closer and closer to the times when it actually will.
There's someone who sells pixie oranges in the estate I live in. And we're having a conversation with him one day. Now, his job just came to an end. But he had a farm, and what he used to do, wholesalers used to come to his farm to collect the mangoes and pay him. Now, he does the retailing himself.
You see?
He does the retailing himself.
So he's gone to the retail side.
He has gone retail but he needs to live off this.
Yeah, exactly. And before you would not have seen his face.
So he has a nice station wagon. He fills his station wagon, folds one seat, fills it. So specific days he's in this area. Another day he's in this area. and he sells, and then
and people know. So on this
they
day,
know.
they
They know.
the mangoes and
He
oranges.
begins by having a point person. There's somebody who tells the rest of us, that these. He even has a weighing scale.
And all coming from his farm.
The farm has always been his.
Yeah.
But the way, the manner in which he
never
conducted
looked
the
at it. He never looked at it as a source of
No,
income.
it
really.
was, but
as in something that he would
Yeah.
depend
like
on. Really,
like a serious hobby.
yes, yes. It would never be that he would depend on it then for livelihood.
Yes.
and that has changed.
Completely.
Yeah,
As I said, this is someone who's very well trained and had a good job, but that job, because of COVID, could not be sustained.
Yeah.
It ended, not at it, was reduced, ended.
Finished.
Shifting mindsets.
Yes.
Let's bring in somebody else to help us, and unfold this conversation. This is Ian Dennis. Ian Dennis is a host of the show on KTN Home, the business coach. Ian, good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
We're fine, thank you. Thank you very much for speaking to us. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you. I've been watching you guys for morning. Quite an interesting conversation.
How's it working from home?
It's what's it called? It's the new norm right now, as everybody's saying, and just getting used to it. But I think one of the biggest struggles that most of the people that I know, even I personally, sometimes struggling with is just ensuring that you have 100% production.
Yep.
because limitation is now limited, and for me also, unfortunately, through this particular period when I had Steve Munga say that when COVID came in, no one, unfortunately, it also got me last week. So it's also been another new norm in terms of just adopting to this new situation, the psychological change, and just trying to bounce back. Yeah.
So now, in fact, therefore, it actually brings in the conversation right where it ought to be, which is very many people are finding themselves at this kind of situation where, you've lost your income, you've lost your job, you've been sent on unpaid leave for a while, but you still have to live a life. You still have to eat, you still have to pay your rent, you still have to, take care of your family. What are the options that are out there?
In terms of, so once you lose your job, no one expects this. No one had foreseen this, and most of any person getting to this particular situation is getting to unforeseen territory. And in this particular unforeseen territory, there are different ways you can get to react to it. Once you can react in a way that you can dig yourself deeper into a hole, or you can maintain the grounding that you are and trying to build out of it. In terms of the options, personally, even just from listening to the conversation and maybe from some of the friends that we have around and maybe some of the past experiences that we have, I think the first thing that comes into is just trying to protect the resources and quote-unquote the status that you have, in the sense that you analyze what is it that do I have within my reach that I can exercise for a new revenue source, and also what exactly can I do to ensure that I do not dig myself deeper. And I think just calls for, first of all, an analysis at the very onset, in the sense that, let me look at it, okay, so I've lost my job, this is my, this is my status of living, how can I adapt, what do I need to do in terms of ensuring that I can actually pay my rent, I can ensure that probably my family feeds, and maybe the luxuries that I have in my life, how can I get rid of it and readjust my life. And I think the biggest thing, or rather the biggest issue, because maybe I can give it out of an experience with a brother of mine, was that let me just give you his story. Maybe I won't mention the name.
Yep.
But before this COVID season, a year ago, he had lost his job. But the status that comes up with a job whereby you're able to provide for your family and the status, you're enjoying life. When he lost his job, he never really told us. Because there's that shame, whereby if I tell you guys, what are you going to take for me, you're going to think I'm a beggar and all that stuff. So you went on, I'm going to live off my savings, I'm going to be providing my family, and the social status is going to be the same. And interestingly enough, even the family, even the wife, didn't know he lost his job.
Wow.
So what was happening is that he used to wake up in the morning, drive up as if I'm going for work, and then once things cool down at around 10, I come back home. And he did that for quite a while. And then, so you get to realize that 3-4 months, you're not able to sustain the same life. You're not able to, it gets to a point, he calls you, and I'm short of 5K for my rent. Then you're like, I thought everything was okay. Because initially, he had just hinted to me, I'm like, I just had some disciplinary challenges at work, but I'll be back. 6 months in, it goes to a point whereby the guy couldn't sustain that life, and when it was known, you'd already ruined your family.
Yeah.
Because of course you're lying, you're not telling your wife, and it becomes more of a social issue.
Yeah.
And eventually ended up now having to, the family, broke, everything just went down, and then you had to come back home and whatever to my mother's house, and then to start life again. But you see, such a scenario can be prevented, first of all, if you just do an analysis. Okay, this is where I am, this is how fast my savings or my financial situation can sustain me for, and then now trying to analyze, get the reality first, and start trying to analyze what exactly is it do I have within my hands to start a new life.
Be
Because
true to
the
yourself.
assumption is, yeah.
Be true to yourself, basically.
Be true to yourself. Yes, true. You have to be true to yourself. And in that particular situation, you're not true to yourself because the assumption is that, okay, I was a senior manager somewhere.
Yeah.
And it was a reputable firm. The reality, quote unquote, when you're in the corporate world, it's a bubble that someone else going to come knocking for me. So you expect, doing this 3-4 months, by the time people know, I'll already have transitioned.
Yeah.
But the reality is not as that.
Right, Ian, I think that, just as people look for options in terms of what they want to do, the psychological plays a very major role here.
Right.
That, like you said, I worked in this spanking corporate, and I was able to afford whatever it is that I wanted, and then suddenly all of this has come to an end. How then do we traverse from the psychological to the physical, the realities whereby before I would have been respected, I would be able to spend at whim, and then I never really was the face because I could basically get other people to do it for me by virtue of the power that the purse had. But then now here I am faced with the reality that I might actually have to go out and get my hands dirty. How do you move then from one to the other?
All right. So in terms of now the reality on the ground, and I like just being very practical, and probably out of my experience, maybe some of the experiences that people have dealt with and maybe worked with. Always first, in terms of just getting your hands dirty, I think the first thing is that it's usually even from the conversation I've been hearing earlier and what you've been observing at the Eastern bypass, whereby people now have to convert their car boots into a grocery shop.
Yeah.
So people are literally just just taking the deep dive from being an employee into being an entrepreneur. And we expect quick results in the sense that once they do this, it's going to be the replica results, which is not always the case, or most of the time it's not the case. So in terms of just the move, making the transition and the reality on the ground, one of the things that I would recommend, and this is just personally and primarily what I've seen from my experience, is that analyze the resources you have. In terms of just digging deep, what do I have in terms of my skills that I can convert into monetary value, and also secondly, trying to look at it in terms of the resources that I do own. And maybe I can just give you an example of something that's been happening with a neighbor of mine, is that, and also an example you guys have already shared, a resource you have that you have not been using quite often, or you have not explored its full potential.
Yep.
And he has a farm. He has a farm in Matu that has been laying bare for quite a while and has been producing oranges. So season after season, and luckily enough, let's say a month ago, it was the season of oranges, and he was able to, the farm was able to produce a lot of oranges. These are resources already have in hand. So the whole idea is trying to now look at the value chain. How exactly can I get the full value of it? How can I access the market? And how exactly can I get the full, return out of this?
Yeah,
because
maximize everything out of this.
Yes. And the thing is, as you're used to being in the office, so your life has always been home, office, and your life.
Yeah.
But now now the thing is now trying to look at within your network, how can I get the full value of it, and also at the same time, leverage it, not spend so much energy as trying to be like the other entrepreneur, but he's been doing it for the longest time.
Yeah.
But there's also
it's understanding as well of that. Ian, let's take a quick break. It's at 17 minutes after 7. We'd like to take a look at the weather, and then we continue this conversation. We are speaking with Ian Dennis. He is a host of the KTN Home Show, the business coach. We are discussing what's happening now in terms of people losing their livelihoods, life changing. You've been laid off work, you have lost your job, you've been sent home on unpaid leave for an unknown period of time. What do you do? Because you still have got to live. And what are the options out there? We'd also like you to participate in this conversation on 0719-012-600. Give us personal experiences and advice on what you've seen people doing and what can actually be done practically. Good morning. This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's take a look at the weather.
All right, in Nairobi, 13 degrees and mostly cloudy. We'll see highs of 24 today. Those cloudy conditions will continue for most parts of this Friday. Cloudy in Nyeri at 13 degrees. Thunderstorms expected later with highs of 21. In Nakuru at 14 degrees is partly cloudy. We will see thunderstorms here as well with highs of 22. 19 the high in Eldoret with a wet afternoon already in sight. Kisumu at 19 degrees is mostly cloudy. We'll see highs of 26 and lows of 18. It's partly cloudy in Kakamega and the heavens will open up not too long from now with highs of 23 and lows of 14. Sunny conditions in Malindi at 25. It'll go into cloudy conditions later with highs of 28 and lows of 24. All right, let's look into Mombasa. We're at 25 degrees. It's clear skies. Sunny conditions all through today. Kampala, 18 degrees and mostly cloudy. We will see thunderstorms later with highs of 24. In Dar es Salaam today, 21 degrees. Clear skies. Highs of 30 and lows of 21. In Johannesburg, it's clear at 3 degrees. Very cold today. Highs of 17 and lows of 2. And finally, for now, in Lagos, it's partly cloudy at 25 degrees. We'll see showers later with highs of 28 and lows of 23.
22 minutes after 7 o'clock. This is a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. We are discussing the options available for anybody who has lost their livelihood right now. I mean, anybody. This is a time when the reality is that people are losing jobs. Reality is that people are being sent home on unpaid leave. Reality is life is changing and changing very fast. And then from the way things are looking, I mean, you cannot see that, this is going to be a 1 month or 2 month. You can't really predict how long you're going to be in this kind of situation. So what is it that you do? We are having a conversation, and joining us on the line is Ian Dennis. He's the host of the KTN Homes show, The Business Coach. He's also giving us, personal experiences. And even as we were talking like this, looking at the people who immediately made decisions, like CT, you were telling us, this person had a very well-paying job, but has a farm. And this farm has been producing some oranges, some mangoes. He decides, I'm going to get into this business, sell the fruits myself, distribute them around the estates, market them myself. He is not saying, I'm going to hire somebody to use that different car. No, he has absolutely no shame
the one I have.
going out there and saying, this is what I'm doing now. And even speaking about it openly to friends like yourself and saying, you know what, I lost my job. I had a farm. It grows this. I can get an income out of this. That's what I'm doing. When you saw those images coming out of the Eastern Bypass of people who go and park their cars and they open up the boots and they're selling fruits and vegetables, it basically tells you the same thing.
You know what is really amazing? If you drive a vehicle in this town and you are on a road that there's usually some sort of queue because of either the lights, there are all these very entrepreneurial citizens who are always selling you one thing or the other. Now we've moved to the next step.
It's those in the cars that are selling
It's
you
those
one thing
who
or the
are,
other.
and the car is theirs. And it's not just fruits. They sell all sorts of artifacts, anything. But they've realized there is a market for these things, and this is where people pass by, and the likelihood of somebody who uses this road buying this thing is high. So this is where I'm going to station myself.
It speaks of the resilient nature of Kenyans and the resilient spirit of Kenyans, all right? But there's also the other side of things. How soon somebody accepts their situation and makes a decision. Ian has just given us an experience of somebody who lost a job but continued living this lifestyle, fake lifestyle. And the impact of that was huge, lost his family. I mean, there was acrimony with his family, having to move back home. Decisions that he could have made months earlier, he didn't make. And you talk about people who immediately you lose a job and you say, okay, so what is it that we want to do immediately?
No.
I live in this house. It's a 4-bedroom house. I'm paying X amount of money. I was able to afford it with my salaried income. Now I don't have that. I only have savings. And those savings are now becoming an infinite resource, a finite resource. So how long can we continue living in this house with the savings that we have? Vis-a-vis, how long can those savings take us if we went to a house half the rent?
Remember, we discussed this with regards to landlords. It's a reality that faces employees as well as business owners.
Yeah.
What is it that you need to do to actually realize the reality of where we are right now as Kenyans? If you own a block of flats where people have been paying you 400,000 shillings per flat. I was being told a very interesting story by a friend of mine, and he says, all these heavy-duty houses that people are paying, again, that 400,000 shillings in Muthaiga, said many of them, people who lived there were people in the diplomatic corps, and many of them have gone. He says, he was telling me, he says he has friends who discovered that rent has gone down. Because 2-3 months go by, you realize, it's 400,000. 2 months, that's 800,000.
That's 800.
Yes.
3 months, 1.2 million.
1.2 million.
Realize, no. So they're saying, from the story I was being told, some are going for 200,000, 250. Some even are going to 150. Because that house was long paid for.
60% reduction in rent.
Yes.
Let it have an income. Let it have somebody
at least
living
let
in
some
it.
money come in.
Yeah.
Now, how the story came up, he was telling me how some friend of his was moving from Westlands, where the landlord had refused to move, and said, why am I struggling with this person? And I can move to a bigger, a more spacious, more prestigious
For
place
less
for less rent than
the
this
money.
thing. Why shouldn't I? Now, again, that's thinking. So, if you're a business owner, there's a reality check for you as well. You can't expect to get the same thing and get this. In the times we live in, that, my friend, will be living in an unreal world. Yes.
Ian, we can come in at any point in this conversation. We keep talking about employers and how employers behave, right? employers are very quick to make those decisions. Looking at the bottom line, looking at the cost of business, and they're saying, all right, so where am I going to cut? Pop, first is let's reduce this. You're giving tea to your employees, remove tea. Next, you tell them, all right, now take a pay cut. Next, okay, half of you are going home. These decisions are made immediately. Why is it so hard for the employee to make such quick adjustments?
I think an employee, because you have so many attachments. Business, it's an organization. An organization has no feeling. It's about the bottom line. A group will not have feelings about it. Just looking at the bottom line. What exactly is happening? What's not working? How can we change it? And you exist to make money and make profit as you create value. But on the other end, an employee, you look at it in terms of, it's about emotional attachment. And I think as human beings, and we always want to be attached to this particular social status because they work here. So it's hard for me to adjust. But a company will be quick to adjust. Because whatever perception you have of this particular company, they will eventually bounce back out of the actions that they do. But the human being, for us, it's a very different mindset. I think also, as you're alluding to earlier on, about the situation that you're in and the importance of people analyzing the resources they have in value. And you've talked about what are the rentals, what exactly is happening to the high-end rentals and the situation that's there. I think also another important thing will be, especially for employees, and unfortunately if you've lost your job, I think the first thing is just, as I've talked about, just analyzing what resources do I have. And the quickest thing for any organization, for them, is about just looking, I want to not lose my value. I want to maintain my value during this period of time, this turmoil, and after that now grow it. But I think the challenge is with we individuals or human beings is that we want to maintain the same status, not looking at the resources, not looking at the value. You may want to have a hold of something that I don't need, that can create for me immediate that can create for me immediate value, but because of the sentimental attachment, you're not quickly able to move. And I think one of the biggest challenges is just the analytics, as you were talking about earlier. We're not quick to analyze where exactly am I, and also quick to analyze ourselves. Because in terms of moving forward, as you're talking on earlier on, it's just about this is where I am, this is where exactly I need to do. But in moving from point A to B, I was just used for I'm used to my salary, I'm used to this, my income, and I've already set my life. But once it's cut, what do I need to do next? I think the first thing is always just also trying to look at what skills do I have, because sometimes you get to the comfort zone. I was used to this life, I was used to doing this, my weekends are this and this. I was not able to explore some of the new skills that I have. I was not able to explore maybe some of the talents that I've been holding for quite a while. And when this period comes, it becomes also hard for us to actually just to bring them up. And maybe I can just give a story of a very interesting story about just a friend of mine that we were actually working on the other day. Yes, he lost her job, and he had to quickly now move out to another place. But one of the interesting things he realized was that she's always had this passion for baking. She had invested in all this baking equipment, but she was hardly ever using it. But because she's always loved doing it and the skill that she already has, she already set up her baking business, and she got her first big deal last week.
So it's monetizing your passion as well.
It's just monetizing your passion and just having no shame in it. Because initially you're used to sitting up in the boardroom and giving out presentations, but then now you have to go out and pitch. And I think one of the biggest skills is that regardless, whoever gets into this situation, the biggest skills about the sell, how do you know how to sell? Who can you convince?
Our discussion so far revolves around people who fall into the category of the middle class. The vast majority of the citizenry live from hand to mouth.
No, it's true.
And they are in the same situation. Now, when this situation strikes, many of them, the immediate solution is, how do I get my family back to the rural areas?
Cut costs.
Immediately.
And it's very easy for them to make that decision. They're used to living like that. We spoke to, our friend from Kibra who calls us, and he was telling us the example. You guys are the ones who are going to get affected. You middle class people, you salaried people. Us guys who live on hand to mouth, we know on a daily basis, I know I can expect this and the other. So I'll make a quick decision. I'll adjust to, I'm not able to afford 3 meals today. All right, I'll have one. What is it I'm going to have?
And because I've done it before, it's
because
not
I've done
going to
it
be
before.
difficult for me.
I'm going to be able to move from this house to move to another one. So this one had water, had electricity, one bulb. I'm going to move to another one that doesn't have electricity, and it reduces the cost. It's quick for that decision to be made. Harder for this, and many people have called it a fallacious middle class.
I am one of those
The
people.
mindset is very different. Yeah,
So what then does it
also-
take then, Ian, for the mind to change? Because look at this one individual who says, okay, hold on, there's been a shift in what I'm being able to earn because of certain factors. They make a decision immediately. Children, wife, shags, right? Do I need to adjust and stop drinking milk in the morning? Change. I'll eat one meal a day. Change. It's an immediate reaction because they can see that there's no end in sight at the moment. If something should change, all right, then we can make a decision. But then why is it so difficult, or what needs to happen for that change to take place in the minds of those who unfortunately feel as if you always have, this buffer?
The mind's connection to the end result. Yeah, I think we are in a bubble. Our mind are not able to move quickly to the end result. This is the reality that I'm facing. I think that's the biggest challenge. Our mind ability to connect to the end result, because our mind is just used to the social core. We are used to this bubble. For what's it called? That person probably in Cuba.
Yeah.
Him already, he knows. If I don't do this, anajua tu nitafungiwa nyumba, my life is just going to be a ruin immediately. Your mind has already connected to the end result. But for us, because maybe you have savings, you have financial knowledge, we think that you can always just circumvent, move things. Like things will change quite quickly. We're in a bubble.
It becomes our enemy. Let's take another quick break. 26 minutes to 8 o'clock. We want to take a look at traffic, and then we continue this conversation. What is it that people can do when you lost your job? What are the options out there? What decisions can you make immediately? And how do you adjust? Good morning. This is The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Getting into the CBD. It's not too terrible though. You just need a little dab of patience for this one. We have an accident right outside here on Mombasa Road, unfortunately, today that involved a pedestrian and some other, actually 2 vehicles today. That's a few minutes ago. So as you approach, that's inbound to the CBD on Mombasa Road. There's an accident there and waiting actually for that to be sorted out. So please approach with caution. It's going to affect traffic just a little bit, and hopefully that will be cleared way soon. Wayaki Way this morning. No. The problem is not vehicular traffic. The problem is that the state of the road is actually quite terrible. Uneven road surfaces and potholes all over the place, and so this is making vehicles move a lot slower, and that then brings about the traffic problems here. We have we have some slow movement on Naivasha Road from Dagoretti Corner to Uthiru. This is being held up by police blocks for some reason. We have yet another accident on Mombasa Road at Next Gen towards the CBD. Police already at the scene. So Mombasa Road is giving up some accidents this morning. So please approach with caution. Spice FM KE, let us know what else you see so that we can at least keep you moving this Friday morning.
Conversation continues, and we want you to join in the conversation. 0719-012-600. Also, you can do so on our social media platforms, Spice FM KE on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Speaking with us on the phone is Ian Dennis. He's a host of The Business Coach on KTN Home. We are talking about the options that people have when you lose an income, like this time when very many people have lost incomes. How do you immediately adjust to this life, and what are the options that are available to you?
Remember, Eric, that COVID came on the back of floods.
Yep.
It came on the back of some natural catastrophes that seemed to have focused mostly on people who live in rural areas. And these problems didn't suddenly go away simply because COVID had come along. COVID just joined them. So there's the rural population and the issues that they face. Remember, there are parts of this country where the rural folk, if they're agricultural, supported the livelihoods of people in towns, but also vice versa. The earnings that people have in town were also very instrumental in supporting people in the rural areas. So now, this interesting cycle has been disrupted by COVID. So if you're talking about problems, they are not difficult, they're just of a completely new nature. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday regarding how they're managing COVID in his neck of the woods in the western part of the country. And he told me, in the big town like Kisumu, you can see their attempts. And I asked him outside, said, attempts. Said, it's just life as normal, as usual. Sure. I said, so what about the face mask? Says, most people will tell you he has a face mask, but they've kept it. Said, for what? Said, well, they go maybe for a funeral or for a function. But for everyday use?
No.
So, no, people borrow. Said, Danny,
all right, okay.
They borrow. Can you lend me that thing so that I can go to the market and come back and give it back to you? You see, there is a whole new thinking. COVID isn't focused on the urban areas. COVID is everywhere in the country. And some of the questions that were being raised in town and that were perennial regarding the visibility of the suffering, which was actually perhaps best represented by death. Have you seen anybody dying? It's a question that people keep asking in the rural areas. Have you seen? Do you know? But if you ask me, that question is actually a defense mechanism, if you ask me. Because what protection would you have if just the ethical living on a day-to-day is a problem?
It's a problem.
And then you bring this problem called a disease, which probably requires some money. You'd rather just not think about it. You push it aside.
Ian, do you think this is going to breed a new kind of entrepreneur in this country or even around the world?
I think it's just, okay, personally, it's going to, what I think is that the outlay of entrepreneurship is going to change in the sense that it will be more about value. Because the challenge of that, the situation is bringing is that there'll be a lot of unemployment and a lot of people go into business. So meaning there'll be a lot of people offering different values into value propositions and offering different products and services into the market. So meaning that there'll be a surge, especially in some services. And I think that what exactly will stand out of all this period is the value that comes out of it, because you'll be much more aware of how we spend out of this period, in the sense that having gone through this, I know every experience, that especially as a human being, anything that you go through has a ripple effect. If I go through this experience whereby there's a point I had no money and I had to leave, out of the tools that I have, I'll become much more aware of the value that I spend. So the only thing that I see, especially going forward and after this period, if we go through it, the spending is going to be, we're going to be much more value centered. We're going to be, and especially as consumers, because you're more of a consuming nation, I think you're going to be much more aware. So it's going to call more from the persons in business and entrepreneurship to create much more value, because everything after this is going to be attached to value. So even employment itself, it's going to be all about value. What exactly are you offering? It's no longer be that I hold this particular degree or I have this number of experiences. I think it's going to be at the end of the day, what value are you going to bring on the board?
You know, Ian has actually made a very valid point, because a lot of our thinking around education centered on some paid employment that was waiting for you at the end of your education. Now, the upheaval that COVID has clearly caused, it has disrupted that way of thinking completely. Because people have seen those who are employed losing jobs. And what became of losing the jobs. So if we're waiting for a change in that thinking, COVID has brought it. And hard. Very, very hard. Because it hasn't spared anybody. If you have a job, your pay has been cut significantly.
Yeah.
If you are unfortunate, then you have no job, which means you have no income. So now, again, that ability that you have, whatever it is, you now have to think about how you want to rejig it
Yeah.
completely.
Yeah, you've got to review everything. Are we seeing the emergence of all these things that you're saying, Ian? Are we already
Yes,
there?
yes, one is seeing it.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Ian, please continue, yes.
Yeah, let me look at it maybe for employment. So, right now there's a lot of businesses telling people like you have to give your 50% pay cut because you have to, this is a situation that you're in.
Yep.
And no, probably, of course, as a human being, you may want to counter back. And I think we've seen that several times. But I think the question that comes in from the employer is that, okay, I'm facing this situation, which is also has a ripple effect on you. But how exactly, what's the value you're going to bring on board to enable me counter back or fight back the situation? And I think something that's going to be, it's a question that especially as Kenyans are starting already to start asking ourselves.
Yeah.
Let's say for you, whatever you're doing, what value? Everything's going to now be, intertwined. If I'm in business, there's a lot of people, let's say when I go to the bypass, everybody's going to tell you nyanya, everybody's going to tell you this and this and this. But now the question comes in, because you just can't fight on price alone.
Yeah.
Everything you can't fight on price alone, because when you fight on price alone, we're going to lose out.
Yeah.
But now everything now is going to make us think outside the box. In anything that I'm doing or any pursuit that I'm making, what is the value addition to it? And I think what it's going to do is that it's going to make us much more innovative and now start thinking outside the box. Because, as a Kenya or rather, as a country, we're in that, you always have that mindset. If this person sets up this shop here and it does well, I'm going to set up one next to it.
Yeah, sure.
So which is why I'm asking, are we seeing that? Are we seeing a competition moving from price to value? The people that you're talking about, that you're seeing selling vegetables and fruits by the roadside from the boots of their cars.
Yeah. No, you're already seeing that.
What's the difference between that and those who are selling in the market?
So the difference now comes in, I'd like giving practical examples. So in the market, we've been seeing the surges of prices of onions or maybe surges of prices in tomatoes.
Yep.
When you go to your mama mboga, you're going to be told that one tomato is just 20 bob or something like that. But now the value comes in terms of now the people coming to the market, it's now more delivery centered. So the value is that not only am I going to deliver that particular onion to you, but I'm also going to ensure that I get a better quality. Because right now you're seeing a lot of people now venturing into farming, meaning that there's a lot of people, a lot of people trying to create much more value into it. So we've been seeing a lot of people not only getting to delivery, that's one point of value.
Ian, how exactly are they creating value?
So I'm getting to that. So one of the value is delivery, which is it's already been there, but you're also seeing a lot of people now trying to get into can I say manufacturing?
So I hear you saying something like if you had a cow in your yard, as an example, and then you get milk. So we're seeing diversification. So people now are getting that milk, not just selling the milk, but maybe are going ahead to make yogurt and things like that, and then being able to sell. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's
Have we seen that?
Are we seeing that happening as a result of what COVID has done over the last 2 months?
And we're talking about new entrants into this market. For example, new entrants who are selling yogurt or who are doing...
Or who are making juice because they harvest oranges, for example.
Yes. In, and primarily what I'm trying to say is that everybody's trying to look for a way to get the edge. And in getting the edge, you're trying to see everybody trying to, better whatever is existing in the market. And bettering comes in terms of trying to adding more value to the existing product. Maybe just giving an example of people trying to get into either manufacturing or production. Because I think even yesterday, let me just for an example that just hit me. What exactly saw yesterday in terms maybe Kenyans are bashing on it about that Kenyan who's trying to manufacture a car.
Oh yeah.
But what you're trying to see is that maybe from this, just as an example, people are trying to add much more value to what exactly is existing in the market.
So that's one way of coping. We are continuing this conversation. I'd like you to join in on 0719-012-600. On the phone with us is Ian Dennis. He's the host of the Business Coach on KTN Home. We are talking about the options out there for anybody who is seeing a reduction in income or complete loss of income, and you still have a livelihood to maintain. What options are these that you have? I mean, what's the decision-making process that has to happen in these kind of times? It's 12 minutes to 8 o'clock. It's a situation room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. In the room is Eric Latif, Nduoko, and C.T. Muga. And on the line, like I've said, is Ian Dennis of KTN Homes, the business coach.
24/7 around the world.
Nine minutes to 8 o'clock. The conversation continues, and we'd like you to join this conversation. Speaking with us on the line is Ian Dennis, host of The Business Coach on KTN Home. 0719-012-600. Fred calling in from Nairobi. Good morning.
Morning, Eric.
How are you, and welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you very much. My contribution about this actually is that what we see is this thing being also some sort of a vector for productivity.
Mm-hmm.
And so people are going to become more productive using less space at work, less employees at work, etc.
Mm.
So that's a big driver for productivity. But also, it brings to fore a theory that we have that says businesses consolidate because they must. They must deliver efficiency. They must deliver a result for their shareholders.
Mm-hmm.
But small businesses, individuals, they fragment because they can. Now you see everybody in the community is selling vegetables and
They
delivering them
fragment because they can.
because they can. So businesses, big businesses, supermarkets, you see all these drive towards consolidation because they must. They have to keep on delivering a better quarterly result. But small businesses, informal businesses fragment because they can. I can just open a kiosk next door, or I can start selling from the boot of my car.
Yep.
And so on. So we are seeing large businesses will have to consolidate. Small businesses will fragment and proliferate. And this is going to be the new normal, at least as far as business is concerned.
But is that sustainable? The fragmentation?
Yes, it is very, very sustainable because the efficiency scale is going down. Now everybody can source parts from wherever, they can source vegetables from wherever and sell. Before, you had to maybe have a linkage with a farmer, or you had to have your own farm, etc. But now you just go and pick the vegetables from the person at the bypass and come and sell them to the people in your court. So you can actually fragment. You will keep fragmenting because it's becoming cheaper and more efficient to do business than before.
Okay. Thank you very much. It sounds like you're in traffic, Fred. Where are you?
I parked on the side.
Right.
Okay. On the side of?
On the side of the road.
I wanted to know the situation on that road. I mean, in terms of traffic.
No, there's traffic. I'm headed to Rongai. Moving though. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for speaking to us, Fred. Have a good day.
And you too.
All right, 0719-012-600. Still on the line with Ian Dennis as well, the business coach host on KTN Home. Ian, talking about the decision-making and the kind of value that we see emerging. Just your reaction to what Fred was saying. In terms of fragmentation, we're going to see a lot more of this, and it increases efficiency for small traders.
I'm looking at it in the bigger picture. The fragmentation, as you mentioned, is that, okay, yes, it's going to create much more value, but you're still going to be a hand-to-mouth kind of society, especially when it comes to businesses. Through that, we are not able, as a country, probably, when the situation, that you're going through, and the fragmentation you mentioned about, we'll not be able to build big businesses. And that's probably what offers much more value in terms of creating more employment. Hello?
Ian, please repeat that we're not that thing which ended with we're not able to build big businesses, please.
Yes. So through the fragmentation, because you can see what is mentioning that everybody can it's a free market, everybody can source. But the challenge with that is that being quite fragmented, you're not able to consolidate and big businesses, which I think as an economy we need.
Shouldn't the government play a role in this?
Of course, it has to play a role in this.
But in our case, does it play an adequate role?
I don't think so. In my view, even the discussion you guys were having earlier with regards to the ICT ministry creating an enabling environment, in my view, my personal view, I don't think so. Because I think, as you were alluding earlier on, we are the Silicon Valley of Africa. we would have been further than where we are.
Yeah.
Because I think the difference between our economies and other economies, for them, they think about how can we create an enabling environment whereby businesses can be created, and not just businesses, but big businesses that can add value to the economy. But for us, it's all about bora kila mtu apate ya kula, but businesses are what exactly drives the economy.
Interesting what you were saying earlier as well, in terms of when we continue this fragmentation, we're still going to be a hand-to-mouth society.
Yeah.
And we had even alluded to this. Very many people who are getting into this business, they're thinking about it now for survival.
Absolutely.
It's getting to something that can earn you a plate of food today. How does it develop then to become like your mainstay business? Because I lost my job. I was an accountant, and now here I am selling fruits. Or as a teacher, we've seen these stories covered in the papers. I'm a teacher, and here I am now working in a salon.
I think the only way that happens is when it graduates from solution to value. When you get to the point where it's at value is when now you begin to see now elements of diversification taking place, whereby somebody then will be able to say, okay, initially something was a solution for me, then I was able to feed my family for a week, 2 weeks, whatever. But then I realized, all right, I've made some money from it. Then now I can begin to diversify because I see that it's creating value for many people and still putting an extra coin in my pocket. I think it's only at that point that you see that people will actually be able to go further. Now, we've always talked about the solutions resting in creation and innovation. I think that's where the government comes in, to create an enabling environment so that when you've graduated then from solution to value, somebody then is able to help you with an environment that allows the innovation and creation to take place. I think that's where the government steps in to say that, all right, now that I've gone beyond the coin for the week, then if I need to register a business to get this done, if I need to use some kind of machinery, is it easy for me to import? Are the taxes low and things like that? And I think that's where you begin to see those moves.
Oh, well, in our case, the government is kicking out the people from selling from the roadside.
Yes, well, there you go, in terms of enabling environment.
Oh, by the way,
That simple idea that you have, first of all, is just... Yes.
but they just evolved. Remember, every evening you would hear of cases of them chasing mamambogas in the middle of Nairobi. And throwing their stuff away and doing all sorts of really genuinely crazy stuff. Yes.
Coming to the end of this conversation, Ian Dennis, thank you very much for speaking to us. Ian is the host of The Business Coach on KTN Home. Continue enjoying working from home, Ian.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Asante sana. But before you go, just listen to today's proverb from C.T. Muga, and he'll tell you where it's from and what it means.
It's an African saying, really simple and straightforward. This one doesn't require too much thinking. If you climb up a tree, you must climb down the same tree.
You get that, Ian?
Yes.
If you climb up...
Quite interesting. If you climb up a tree, you must come down the same tree.
Yes, same.
Same tree.
Quite thoughtful.
Thank you, Ian, and have a good day.
Have a good day.
It's a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Conversation continues in the next hour. We start talking about tourism and domestic tourism. We'll be speaking to one of the players in the local industry and asking what the local players are doing to support and promote Kenyans to go and visit their own country. Good morning. It's now coming up to 8 o'clock. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Remember, for the people in Kisumu 102.5, our engineers are working on that frequency. In the meantime, you can watch us on our digital platforms. Good morning.
It is a Friday, so outbound is likely to have heightened levels of traffic, and we already see that today. Heavy traffic along Kimende, Soko, Mjinga, and this is compounded by the fact that fog is very heavy and quite low today. So as you approach that area, we know that there's quite a lot of people who are getting out of town today, and we see that traffic there. So as you approach the area, please be very, very careful. You need to slow it down just a little bit so that we don't get into a mess. All roads clear outbound on Thika Road, however, and it's not looking too terrible. Inbound is another story. It's very slow coming into the CBD, but it's moving. So even with it's not a bumper to bumper situation as yet. We've had 2 accidents on Mombasa Road this morning. Please, we're beckoning. Take it a little bit easy so that we don't have more. Police have cleared out what happened around Next Gen. And we'll see that they sort out what happened right around Airtel as we carry on. All right, apart from that, it doesn't look too bad, guys. You'll get where you're going in good time today. Don't forget, you can get in touch, Spice FM KE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for
2 minutes
hard
after
truths,
8.
debates,
Kenya's
and
biggest
elevated conversations.
We are on 94.4 Nairobi, Mombasa 87.9, Nakuru 96.0, Eldoret 96.7, Nyeri 90.9, Malindi 97.7. And also we live stream the show on www.spicefm.co.ke. We also live stream the show on our social media platforms, Spice FM KE, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. You can join the conversation by also tagging us on Instagram, Spice FM KE, or calling 0719 012 600. The issue of domestic tourism is, one of those catchphrases that has just been used as a keyword.
Buzz.
It's a buzzword, right? It's been used more than once. Just give me the Nation. Read today's editorial. One of the editorial on the Nation today is still on domestic tourism, where the editors of the Nation are saying, you know what, we need to have a promotion of domestic tourism in the country, and the local industry players doing a lot to boost domestic tourism. The diversity could turn out to be a blessing in disguise. Hundreds of Kenyans are heading for Masai Mara Game Reserve to watch the wonder of the world. That's a wildebeest migration. The numbers may be small, but camp and lodge owners in the Mara can afford to smile and begin to refurbish their premises for local tourists, including diplomats and other foreign residents. There's a huge potential in domestic tourism waiting to be tapped. Also likely to benefit are the trading centers dotting the routes to the attractions. The tourism industry and ministry should, besides the stimulus package to revive the businesses, also consider incentives to encourage more Kenyans to sample their country's famed attractions. Now, there are very many things that we keep talking about, and Ndu, you've said you visit places and you come back and you tell your friends in Kenya and you're like, wow, I went to this place, and someone is like,
Where is that?
where is that?
True.
And you're like, it's in Kenya. The person has never heard of it. Are they accessible? Yes, they're accessible because they're within the country. You don't need a visa and all those things to travel. Some of them are just within driving distance, a short hop. How many national parks and game reserves do we have around Nairobi, for instance?
That you
Nairobi
could get to
National
within 3
Park,
hours,
you've got the Hell's Gate in Naivasha, you've got the Lake Nakuru National Park, you've got this one, Kilimambogo right here, you've got the Aberdares, even Mount Kenya is not so far, you've got Amboseli just down. All around Nairobi, places you can go to, within the city, places that you can go to. But do people know about them? No. So what is it that the local industry actually also does? The people who operate these businesses, what do they do in terms of promoting and encouraging the locals to go there?
It's not a priority for locals.
Why?
They
don't
don't
have money now.
because
Your money-
it's
money
not
don't
even it's
go
not
on.
even so much the money. If you can find money for the things that you think are important, if this thing featured as being important, you'd find money for it. It doesn't mean you'll have it instantly, but it means it's something you can save, you can plan. People do this sort of things. If you put money in a SACCO, usually it's to buy a plot.
Right.
But if alongside that, many SACCOs also offer you savings for maybe a holiday, saving for also this and the other. So I'm saying most Kenyans do not consider. See, holiday relates very directly to going to the rural home.
Oh, I see it. It's
Or
not
you
a-
see
it's
it
not
as a waste.
I saw it differently from when you started speaking, CT. So you're seeing it as it is not a priority for most Kenyans to go on holiday, as opposed to it not being a priority for a lot of these tourism
For the
related
operators.
establishments for Kenyans to visit.
Kenyans go
where
on
they
holiday,
are.
all right.
Got
It's
it.
that sort of holiday.
I got it. All right.
Yes, where they have gotten this idea of going on holiday to the coast. That one, many Kenyans have gotten to understand. But again, it's because we have this illusionary growing middle class. Okay? And
To
then
the places that Wazungu have been going.
yes, and also the railway, this SGR helped because you get there in a short time and you are in Mombasa. And they also pocket-friendly places that people could go to and can go to. That one has caught on. Game Park has some way to go. But part of the reason is because a lot of our tourism did not really focus on the locals. That's really the whole point. It's only now, with perhaps the evolution, it's not that it's catering for tourism, but the leisure industry has focused on catering for the citizenry of the county. So you find nicer places to go to. You'll go to some really far-flung place. You find a place with the swimming pool.
Yep.
And I'm not referring to the river next door. I'm talking about a real swimming pool. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So these changes introduce people who also are in far-flung areas to perhaps things which they could only perhaps relate to on paper or in an advert if they came across it, or on TV if they owned one. But as to being something that people feel they should experience, it's not a priority.
Let's speak to one of the industry operators, Ms. Delishoi Talengo. She's the managing director of Season Hotels and Lodges. They have lodges in Nairobi, Elementaita, Narok, and Mara. Good morning, Delishoi.
Morning, Eric. Thank you for having me on.
Yep, welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you.
Now, you've heard our introduction to the topic, but just before we even get there, just tell us about the Seasons Hotel and Lodges.
Okay, thanks once again. Seasons Hotels is, just like you said, made up of hotels and lodges in several counties. We have a hotel in Nairobi, an airport hotel. Elementaita, which is primarily MICE, which is focused on conferencing by the lake, by the shores. And we have Narok, which is a transit hotel, and Masai Mara, which is, mostly focused to international tourists, which will now get into further discussions about domestic.
Now that you've gone right there into it, so explain.
Yes.
Why is the Mara property targeting the international tourist?
Well, just like it has been discussed in the introduction, unfortunately, over the past years, focus has rightfully been towards international market, and mainly during the high season, which is between June to September, which was when most hotels in the Mara make their revenues. So the main reason for that is simply because the international tourist would, pay a bit more, and you'll be able to make more occupancy rates from the international tourists than domestic. It hasn't rightly been so because every Kenyan should enjoy what the country has to offer. But that's the situation, and that's why people haven't been going to parks, because hotels and even the government and the bodies of support do not focus on the domestic traveler.
Well,
but that has changed, not necessarily.
Since we're there, how can that change? Because it's something very interesting that you said, is that they would stay for longer, and and from what has been seen, they would spend more over a longer period of time. Could it be considered that Kenyans who are here in more numbers, even if they were spending less per capita, per unit, but you had more people frequenting these areas in terms of volume, wouldn't it surpass those numbers that would be seen from the international community?
Well, not necessarily surpass, but focus and interest has moved to the domestic market, not necessarily just because of what's happening currently.
Even before. I'm not even focusing on COVID.
Before.
I'm talking about before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even before. You've seen numbers and a lot of focus on domestic tourists. You've seen a lot of the structure in terms of pricing, because you cannot overly rely only on the international traveler. So there has been some work around it, a bit of focus around having several packages that are targeted to the domestic traveler, aligning promotions to when schools close and things like that, so that families can go out together. But I guess, and I feel there's definitely more that we can do, and just take people through the journey and the experience of what is out there, which I think the local Malindi does not have a sense of.
If I may ask, can we talk numbers? What percentage of this market has the local traveler or tourists occupied, and what has the international traveler? What percentage have they occupied over time?
The international traveler occupies about 70% of the tourism numbers. It's only a small portion, about 30, that is catered to the domestic market, and those are the numbers that have been there in the past.
Okay, and what percentage of our marketing has focused on the international traveler, and what percentage of our marketing has focused on the local traveler or tourist?
Barely enough. I think 80% of our marketing, talk about Magical Kenya, KFC, mainly focus on the international traveler. So 80% of it, we have a lot of, events we go to out of the country as a country to basically promote Kenya. We've been, apart from the few exhibitions we have, let's say Sarin Expo and things like that, which is actually initiatives from the hotels to come and promote their own facilities. Nothing more is very, suited and direct to the debt.
So would it be fair to say that this industry places next to zero value on the locals?
Definitely not. I mean, you'll find in other countries who have a larger share of their travelers from the domestic market.
Now I'm talking about ours here, this Kenya yetu tukufu.
That's something that's very important, and it has been something that has been allowed.
But the figures don't indicate any importance whatsoever.
They don't indicate any importance because the support has not been there to bring in the numbers in the past. It does not mean that someone does not have the capacity to actually travel, maybe once, twice a year, or even more. But if the focus is not there, and the media and the government isn't putting an emphasis on it, then it becomes, just like you said, the lowest of your priorities. Yet if it was budgeted well and it's in your face and this is what I can afford probably, you'll be able to put it in place and see when you can actually take this safari or travel with your family. So it is quite important to just refill the people in terms of putting out the information and just the attractions within our country.
So if I were to say that the problems that this industry has faced in the past has been a creation of their own, something of their own making, would I be right in saying so?
I think more emphasis and more focus would have been shared. I know for sure an international traveler is more beneficial, not just to the hotels, but the economy in general. So it's natural that the government and the hotel facilities would focus more there.
I really like to understand what it's meant when you say an international traveler is more beneficial. I'd really like to understand what that means. Because I'll give you an example of why I say this. If you look at the United States, for example, their primary source of tourism is the domestic market, whereby you don't hear. Do you see ads in Kenya, for example, of come and visit the Great Rocky Mountains in the United States? You don't. They're advertising to their local population. So I'd like to understand when you say that they're more beneficial than the local market, for example.
I guess that's rooted from way back. You can't compare this economy obviously with the U.S.
Of course, but from the minute they began and they saw what was available in the country, the people that they focused this to was their local population, not anybody from outside. Yeah. Which I rightly agree.
It has been a big error on our end. I don't know if it's right before from when we were colonized or whatever it is, but it may be something that's rooted from way back in terms of our mentality of who is actually more important. And
but also you're looking at the market value. I mean, if you have a 300 million population, you'll obviously find it easy to target that 300 million population as opposed to a population of 36 million.
Yeah, and the middle class
growing into 40 million.
Is there any country that begins with a population of 300 million? It grows over time.
Of course, over time.
So if you start with the population you have and you grow it surely, then even whatever value you're talking about will increase as the population increases.
But you also have to understand the capacity to actually spend on leisure is much less here. The middle class, quote unquote, is quite a very small percentage. So someone who would step out and actually say, "Let me take my family to Mombasa," is a very small percentage of our population. Many people are not able to afford that. So as a destination, Kenya generally, we may want to focus inwardly as much as possible, but we rely a lot on that international currency housing. For one, a leisure client generally from within is very price sensitive. So we have to bend over backwards to put a package together that is actually reasonable, to any person. Yet that particular room and that particular package can still be sold to an international traveler. So, double, triple the price. So it's just the economies of, what makes more sense. It's a catch-22, so to say, but that's the reality of it.
Delisha, I want us to take a short break. Delisha Italengo is the MD of Seasons Hotel and Lodges. They have properties in Nairobi, Elementaita, Narok, and Namara. We are talking domestic tourism. That's what we want to focus on today. Take a quick break, take a look at the weather, and then we come back. And this conversation continues. Just keep it right here. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation.
All right, cloudy conditions in Nairobi today. We'll see a high of 24 and lows of 11. And looking into Nyeri, 13 degrees, cloudy conditions with thunderstorms forecasted for the afternoon with highs of 21 and lows of 12. Nakuru at 14 degrees is partly cloudy. Thunderstorms also forecasted for highs of 22 and lows of 12. In Eldoret today, it's cloudy at 13 degrees. We're looking at very low and very dense fog today. It'll open up into rains later with highs of 19 and lows of 11. Looking into Kisumu this morning, partly cloudy at 20. We'll see highs of 26 and lows of 18. In Kakamega, it's partly cloudy at 17 degrees. Rain showers expected for later with highs of 23 and lows of 14. In Malindi, it's 25 degrees and very sunny right now. That's going to change later, though, to cloudy conditions with highs of 24. Taking a look then into Mombasa, where it's clear skies at 24 degrees. Sunny conditions all through today with highs of 28 and lows of 23. In Kampala, it's mostly cloudy at 19. We'll see thunderstorms later with highs of 24 and lows of 17. And in Dar es Salaam, sunny conditions as well with highs of 30 and lows of 21. Let's take a look at Joburg, where it was quite cold this morning. Still is the case, warming up ever so slightly. 4 degrees, highs of 17 and lows of 3 today. And finally, for now, in Lagos, there's a light drizzle at 25 degrees, likely to continue for most parts of today with highs of 28 and lows of 23.
Domestic tourism reality or a fallacy, impossibility? What is the situation? We are speaking with the MD of Seasons Hotel and Lodges, Delisho Italengo, and we are discussing this particular issue this morning. You wanted to raise something, Citi, before we went to the break.
Yes, I was saying that from what I am hearing our guests say, there's been an overdependence on what we call the foreign tourist, and yet you have a local market that even the group she represents seem to have recognized. Like when you talk about having a place, say, in Lake Elementaita, which focuses on conferencing, I am assuming that the majority of these people are locals. Yes. So it's right before you. I'm looking at places which aren't in what you may call your regular tourist circuit, like, say, Chakaranch. All right? Locals. And there are others, businesses that seem to just focus on locals.
Yep.
If you look at some of the nice established hotels that are coming up within the counties, they're not looking for external tourists. It's, again, locals and these meetings and conferencing, meaning there's a market that is there. So if someone says that there is a lot more money to be made from the foreigners and they're much fewer than the population in this country, and yet you have similar establishments in the country making money from locals, then I have to ask, this dependence on the foreign tourist and the meaningfulness of the partnership we have with them, has it not outlived its purpose?
Now, one thing that you got wrong there, I did not mention about over-dependence. See, all facilities across the country, different hotels have different target markets. And as you rightly say, a location like Elementaita and Naivasha, you find probably Machakos now upcoming, are mainly conference facilities. And those particular facilities depend on the local market, on group conferencing, events, meetings as a MICE market. So that has not changed. For it to be a conference facility means over 60% of it relies on conferencing. The rest of it is still leisure. And that leisure is split between the international tourists or the foreign tourists and the domestic tourists. So the situation we find ourselves now is that, of course, the conferences have been put on hold, and that whole percentage of business that we used to have is now cut off. So there's no overdependence. Each unit in the hospitality industry has different strategies for different markets. So it's not really an overdependence. It just means that right now we need to see how can we sustain our domestic traveler, how can we package our things right, and make it for the long haul, not just for now, as a knee-jerk reaction because of what's happening.
So then what needs to be done? If the Kenyan traveler or the Kenyan holiday maker is going to be taken into consideration, what needs to happen long-term to bring them in?
I think what needs to happen long term is, number one, have the government really put focus into the domestic market, make things like the attractions. Because right now, if you're selling any hotel facility, it's not just about the room. It's really experiential. What are you going to do in this particular place? Now, when you package a room with, let's say, a safari etc., you have to load on extra transport and attraction fees, etc., which are not within your control. If we're able to step in and have absolute reduction to attract a local traveler to these particular places, then it becomes more affordable. And I think a lot more awareness needs to be done through the media and other methods for the domestic traveler to actually understand what's out there. Yeah, so you don't get surprised by a little lodge in Amboseli. You're like, oh my God, that's so beautiful. It's literally in my country. You should be aware that there are all those things all over. Perhaps, you may not want to go right now, but, 5 years down the line, you will, because it's at the back of your mind. So just awareness, taking people
Sounds to me that awareness, you're placing the burden of an awareness on somebody else.
Well, I think we shouldn't only focus our main budget, our tourism budget of marketing internationally, because that's what
so this is KTB that you're talking about, the Kenya Tourism Board, that is responsible for promoting Kenya as a tourism destination.
For promoting, yeah. I mean, look at something like Visit Dubai, the campaign that they do. It's in your face daily, every day. Even when you're not, or you've never been to Dubai, you know what it's all about. You know about the sand dunes, about everything. And it stays with you somehow. So So that's the sort of thing that we need to do, so that everyone needs to understand and be proud, what Rwanda is doing about tourism. It's all about the pride of knowing, this is what I have in my country, and I can take advantage of this when I'm able to, down the line.
And
that's the way we can support.
And is this the responsibility? Is this the responsibilities purely of government?
Not necessarily. All players come into it, but in terms of reach out, and it has to be to the whole community. It has to be headed by the government. It has to be spearhead, and there's a budget that has to go into that, and it sticks to that, so that then everyone else falls into tow, because that's the strategy that's being rolled out, and hotels, travel agents, etc. Everyone will then sort of feel the support and play their part.
One would
it's
assume
not only for the government.
That being the key stakeholder that works with KTB, the local industry is also not so keen on spending a lot on domestic tourism. Because I'm thinking, if there was actually concerted effort by the local industry and coming together through your various organizations and associations and telling KTB, look, we want to see a shift in the percentage of budget that's allocated to domestic tourism, then KTB would react to the market. Right now, KTB appears to be reacting to the industry. The industry seems to value the international tourist. The industry seems to benchmark itself on how well it's doing on the international tourism market. And that's how KTB is saying, okay, this is what the industry wants. Let me market for them what they want.
No, as a country, it's a chicken egg situation. As a country, we have to take a stand and say, fine, what needs to be done to sort of change this? It cannot be reactionary from a body such as KTB. It has to be a situation where they take it charge and taking leadership. So you'll see, I think you've realized over the last couple of years, there has been a shift and a buzz where people do travel. Things have become a lot more affordable, but it's not necessarily a push from the top down.
It was clear. There were entrants into the market who saw that, there was a gap, and that there were Kenyans who were willing to take holidays, and they decided to do the due diligence and do the extra work to make sure then that establishments such as yourselves would offer a rate that would then be more affordable. So it was someone who saw a gap and decided to go with it, and it has, essentially taken people by storm. But where I'm coming from is that, must it be that we wait for that gap? Isn't it something that can be progressive as we go along, to say that, it is actually possible for Kenyans to visit Kenyan establishments in country and also contribute to the profile of the tourism industry?
True. I mean, you can imagine, probably, as you say, there's a gap. But hotels and facilities have always had a particular rate for domestic. If you look at any rate card, you always have a rate that is there for the local market, and you have a rate that's there for the foreign customer. So in terms of pricing facilities, all hotels have a differentiator. Now, if we have certain players coming in and focusing on the domestic market, it's amazing and it's great. But you can imagine how much tenfold that would be if it was a push from above.
I don't know.
It's not just specific.
The push from above, I believe, should be there. But as the business owners, surely the lion's share of this push locally doesn't necessarily have to come from the government. I've admired, for instance, the programs that your industry has with schools, for instance, where children, because of the school and the way it's arranged over a period of time, children are able to visit some of these facilities. Now, as I was thinking about school children, my mind went to the universities. Do you have programs that cater for children in the universities, because they are also large in numbers? They also have holidays?
Yes. You find that across board, rates actually fragmented and positioned for very different markets. There's students' rates, there's university rates, there's short stays.
Do all these groups of people, the schools know because they're children, because they're in schools, but what I'm saying, the point I was getting at is, you have packages that are useful, wonderful even, but do people actually know them?
Is there awareness?
Yes.
There is awareness, because there is awareness for each individual unit. So you'll find myself or probably body under the hotel body would push for specific hotels. A particular sales director in Hotel X will push sales for their particular, unit or company. But that doesn't make waves because everyone is sort of just doing their own thing.
Yeah.
Yet, like we're saying, there's actually
it's fragmented.
packages and rates cross-board across all hotels. I can tell if you go to any particular hotel or lodge, they have rates for the domestic market. They have rates for kids. We have rates for university. It's basically tiered depending on who you are. So even within the domestic, you have different tiers. But what we're doing is probably everyone is doing their own strategies, their own marketing, and that won't get far. So if, let's say, a travel agent comes in and says, I'm focusing on the domestic market, it may look like, a big leap because then they're sort of consolidating all that out there in the market. That has been there already.
Maybe to shed light on marketing by individual properties, Delishoi, is tell us, for instance, how the individual properties marketing themselves to the international market. Are they only relying on KTB and KTB's work of promoting the destination and then just tagging along and seeing and taking the fruits of that labor?
No. Actually, the support we have internationally would not translate directly to sales. It's more about awareness about the country and positioning the country right out there. Because in Africa, there are very many destinations that offer what we offer. We have, let's say, Egypt, the rest. So you can't translate it directly, but if your country is more favorable and perceived better in a particular market, then you're able to get bookings. But what we do and what happens in the industry is a lot of partnership with travel agents who are positioned in these countries. So you'll have partners in various countries who then you liaise with, agree on particular rates, and they're able to sell your units out there. There's also online travel agency. Of course, traditional travel agents have sort of gone down over the years. Now we have online travel agents who then are more reliable because people now want to actually go in by themselves, look at your hotel, look at ratings, which are out there, and make informed decisions by themselves rather than having a traditional travel agent sit behind a desk and tell you this and this and this is where you can go. So KTB does a lot in terms of having the awareness and things like that, but the hotels have to go in and do the work by themselves. They have to go to this particular market, decide, fine, I want to focus on the US, I want to focus on the UK, Poland, whatever it is, your strategy is. Find who you can partner with on that side. Have your, numbers right in terms of, what you're going to get from this particular marketplace, and then go for it. Have the right rate. Target, put your hotel position well for this, meaning if you're going to have the Indian market mostly, your F&B has to be sort of supportive of that. You have to have certain meals that are supportive of that. Probably you even have to have someone in front office who speaks the language.
True.
So it's all these things that you have to go in and actually pull the customer to you. It's never just a reliant on any government body.
Time for another short break, Delisha. It's 25 minutes to 9. We want to take a look at traffic and then come and conclude this conversation with you. We'll ask you to please stay on the line with us for a short while longer. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation at 25 to 9. Let's take a look at traffic, what's happening on the roads. We're discussing domestic tourism. What is it that the local industry needs to do to play a bigger role in promoting domestic tourism? In the next hour, we'll be speaking with the Tourism and Wildlife CS, Najib Balala, on the same issue. Good morning.
Headed out of the city, heading towards Kijabe this morning. It's going to be a problem. Naivasha at Kijabe is at an absolute standstill. And we know that there was an accident around Kimende this morning, head-on collision. And it could be the spills of that we see now. So in that general direction, there's quite the issue. We also have quite a lot of traffic. And the fog is actually very, very low from the pictures that we see, guys. So this is where focus is outside of the city today, heading west in that general direction. So please be careful. We can only insist on that. Coming off of Mombasa Road is not too terrible either. Getting into the CBD, Uhuru Highway is moving along. It's moving slowly, but it's moving all the same. We'll be able to look through, get through that without too much of a headache. Spice of MKE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter. Let us know what it is that you see.
For this time, it's a peak season, especially for the Mara. It's holiday season. Children are at home. It's a time when people can actually just travel and go somewhere if they are able to go somewhere.
You see, when you talk about tourism and international tourism, we are competing with other nations who also want to offer foreigners to their country something that they consider would be, should we say, an experience that is equitable to the money that they spend. Say, for instance, you want to spend 70,000 shillings. That 70,000 shillings can take you to Dubai, fly you there, 1 week, bed and breakfast, plus the tours. The equivalent in Kenya might get you 3 days. SGR. Depending on the time and the season.
And the facility you're going to.
Precisely. Now, given the Easter season, that's when, for instance, in this country, you used to get some really interesting deals. Okay. But the point I'm making goes even further. See, we are seen as a destination for wildlife. And if you look at even our parks, they're actually not intended for drive-ins, meaning it's not very easy for you to just take your little car and just sort of like drive in our parks. But places like Kruger, and I'm going to South Africa now, they have roads that you can actually drive on with greater ease. Then it's ours, it's safari.
It's an adventure.
It is. Now, all I'm saying is we have a product that is actually really extremely unique, and we know this. And we have a large variety as well. My initial statement has been our focus has primarily been on foreign tourists. All these things, I don't have to leave here to travel to Mombasa. I don't have to leave Migori to travel to Homa Bay. There are tourist attractions in those places that one could actually focus on and ensure that people get a taste of what is around them before you even think of these exotic things. That's my question. These investors, there are those who've thought of it, but how focused are they? Because those who seem to be investing in this, as I was saying earlier, are making money from it. That's why they have these businesses. But are we focusing enough on this local market?
As individual investors or as...
I'm talking about individual investors. You see, when you start your business, you're not starting it for the sake of the government. The government has its role, yes, and you understand it, but it's for you. Remember, I have been saying that the tourism industry doesn't take the local visitor or traveler seriously enough. They don't seem to assume that this person has the sort of money that is needed or they think is needed for traveling and for utilizing their facilities. That is my thinking. Yes.
Is that the right perception, Delishoi?
I don't entirely agree with that. I think over the past several years, we've seen a lot of investors, especially with devolution coming in, a lot of investors investing in their counties, bring up fantastic facilities. You'll find Kisumu, different places. You find really good hotels that have come up. And the focus of that is really the domestic market, and particularly the MICE market. With devolution, you find a lot of more opportunities for meetings and things like that. And I think people have risen to the occasion and actually moved on to actually do.
And they dedicate a lot of focus on attracting their target market.
Yes, and standards as well. I'd like to speak about that because in the past, someone would just rise up and do a hotel and name it a particular star, 5-star, just because you can. Yeah. But now there's lots that's been done with regard to standardizing. So if you're actually putting up a good 4-star hotel, back home, you're doing it with a sense that it's the same 4-star that is there in Europe or whatever, because the standards now to be put in place.
Yeah.
So people have risen to the occasion. There are beautiful facilities that have come up, maybe for conferencing mainly, but also for the leisure market.
Maybe the question then would be the kind of attention that the leisure market is receiving. Because you see, also when you look at all these facilities that have come up, even in the counties, they're mainly targeting the MICE market, bringing in the conferencing and all. But in terms of leisure, where you're just sitting there with your family and you're thinking, we can go to this facility for the weekend or for X number of days over half term or during the holidays, is this marketing being done properly or intensely by the various investors?
Well, more could be done, but the reality is that the money is in the MICE. You can look at it in this scenario. You have 30, 40 people coming to your facility for 3-4 days on full board. Vis-a-vis leisure, who maximum time we know, people will go out for holiday 2-3 nights, and that's it. And sometimes people just do BB, that's bed and breakfast, half board. So it's a spillover because if you have a fantastic facility and you're targeted to MICE, of course the local people will still also, patronize the place if you're positioned well and you seem welcoming to them because it's also another factor where you have to promote your place to a particular target. But for me, I know for sure the MICE is a bigger chunk of what you would get within the counties and make the most of your facility.
Delishoy, as we try to look at domestic tourism taking center stage, or at least getting a bigger bite as it has in the past, one of the issues that many don't want to talk about is the fact that Kenyans, even until very recently, feel left out when it comes to issues of discrimination by the very same staff who would otherwise welcome them into some of these establishments. I see it as a great hamper towards domestic tourism. Is that attitude from where you sit still rife?
I think it's really the onus lies in the owners of these establishments to put the correct culture. If you leave it up to, up in the air and let your people sort of develop their own attitudes towards particular clients or, customers who come in, then that's exactly what's going to happen. So, let's say a foreign customer comes in, they stay for a couple of days, they tip the waiter, $100 or $50, and you do not have the culture to inform and educate your staff that all customers are equal, then naturally they may sort of lean towards this particular client. Yeah. So we need to be very conscious of the fact that the training and continuous sensitization to our staff is there. Otherwise, such things then become, the norm. Yeah. And soon to be, you're trying to fight fires, which are even much harder to do than if you actually address things from the beginning. Because humans are human at the end of the day. You have to train and speak to your people constantly to remind them that everyone is the same.
Everyone is valuable.
Yeah, everyone is valuable. Exactly.
Delisha, we'll be speaking with the CS for tourism in the next hour, and what he's been saying recently. He's been saying that the local industry is so focused on that international traveler and forgetting a number of things. Being a long-haul destination, it means that the international traveler comes into the country. Most of them will come into this country just once in their lifetime, and then they don't come back. And yet you have an untapped market domestically. And what he's been pushing is that the local industry needs to lower its prices and needs to start pricing its products for the local market. What would you tell him? What did you say to that?
My pushback would be for him and the bodies that be to go around and do a survey with regards to what pricing is out there right now. I can confidently tell you that rates are rock bottom, not just currently, but they have been for the domestic market. So I think the pushback and throwing responsibilities back and forth and playing a price war is not the right thing for this market. But there's only so much, you can do in terms of pricing. Yeah. At the end of the day, then you will not be actually hitting your profitability. So it's not just about pricing, because, like was said earlier, if a particular hotel is a certain rate and this is what you've focused on going on a holiday, you can budget and save and work towards that. So bringing in the domestic market is not only just about price. It's an array of issues that come together. It's about awareness. It's about also reduction of pricing to all attractions around the country.
But
So
is the desire there to actually do it? Because we can talk about all of these things, and we can talk about government participation or inclusion, and we can talk about, but is there a desire from the captains of industry to have domestic tourism take center stage in this country?
Definitely, yeah. You cannot, like I said earlier, the foreign traveler only comes during high season, at least 80% of them. High season runs between June to around September, which is another discussion altogether, because we shouldn't only be focused on this particular month, but that has been the trend over the years. So you have all these other 6 months of the year that you don't have international travelers, at least significant amount. So you cannot over-focus on just the foreign client. And I can tell you for sure, places like the Mara, there are certain times where things are shut down completely until high season comes in. Now, the lion is still there. It's still hunting the wildebeest. It's still doing its thing, So why do we then have to focus only on this particular month? Yeah. So we do need the domestic market to be able to then level it out and have the tourism industry sort of standard all through the year to some extent. Yeah.
Delisha Italengo, thank you very much for speaking to us this morning, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
Delisha is the MD of the Seasons Hotel and Lodges. They have lodges in Nairobi, Elementaita, the Narok and the Mara. And, we've been discussing domestic tourism and what the local industry is doing. Just keep it right here. This conversation continues. We'd like to take your feedback now as well. 0719-012-600. That's 0719-012-600. Also posting your comments on our social media platforms, Spice FM KE on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, as well as YouTube. It's 11 minutes to 9 o'clock. Time for a quick break. All right, so let's sample some of what you're saying about this, how the push for domestic tourism in the country. 0719-012-600, as well as our social media platforms, Spice FM, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. What are people saying?
All right, well, Charles says that the immediate remedy is safe domestic tourism. That's what needs to happen now in order to save the situation. Lirango says, I would advise Kenyans to visit South Africa, Dubai, or Egypt. They're much cheaper than Kenya. Wacha wakule ujeuri yao. Did I say that right?
Yep.
Okay, good. looking at what other people have said, we are not the target audience, unfortunately. Kenyans don't believe that they are the target audience when it comes to this. Becky says, can we also discuss the discrimination at hotels? One of the issues that I brought up. They will serve Mzungu before serving their own. And these are some of the issues that we see that Kenyans are quite concerned about when it comes to domestic tourism.
Is this still rampant? Is this not coming down to one of the isolated cases? All these instances that you've given us, CT, of the many establishments that have come up across the country, around the country, in the counties, that are encouraging and opening the doors for domestic tourists, are they discriminating? Are they showing you that you're not the target market?
It has lessened so considerably. But you see, when you talk about niche markets, there are markets that focus specifically on, say, package tours. Now, package tours from abroad. So they cater for that clientele.
It's a target market.
Yes, so that hotel will cater predominantly for that particular sort of individual.
So somebody who is out of that sphere then obviously is not the target.
But it's not that you won't be served. You see, where the discrimination used to come in, even after a lot of these things had dimmed, was if you were female. They want to find out who you are with. But this is a discrimination that has been in this country for not just with hotels. There was a time you couldn't get a bank loan as a woman until your husband signed the form or something of that sort.
Yeah.
These are just things that have needed to change over time. But women tended to be a greater focus when they started allowing Africans to visit these places. Women now became the target. Who are you going to see? Why? Yes. But even that has eased significantly. But what I found of interest, even as we're saying this, if you talk to anyone who owns these establishments, they will tell you, see, package tours, everything is paid for.
Right.
Right? Now, they'll tell you locals spend more money. They will tell you, as it's spending, locals tend to spend more money.
Let's hear from Trevor, who's calling in from Nairobi. Trevor, good morning.
Morning, how are you?
Fine,
morning.
Thank you.
Just a little contribution to the conversation.
Yep.
I like what CT had alluded to during the interview about trying to focus on the student population coming up, because tourism is not like a single thread, it's like a web. For me, I started appreciating tourism when I was in primary school, when back then we had instances where we were taken to Lake Baringo, Lake Nakuru, all that. So you start appreciating in real life what is what you have to offer, and that really pushed me to want to appreciate more. And like you said, for 70,000, somebody can go to Dubai and come back. For me, I think I spent almost 150,000 to go to the Mara for 5 days. So there's that difference. Although Mara, we can say it's a bit high end, but the goodwill from the devolved government should at least help people in achieving that. For instance, if there's I've wanted to go for Lamu Cultural Festival, but I cannot really put the date in my head throughout. I only see it after it's happened on the news.
You see it on the news when it's already happening.
I see in the news that there was this thing happening. So if, for instance, let's say Lamu Cultural Festival is happening, let's say in November, and then all counties say, you know what, we will advertise this for you, put billboards in our county to tell people on such and such a date there's a Lamu Cultural Festival, go.
Well, the Lamu County government itself launches the campaign early in advance and makes you aware that start preparing yourself for this year's festival.
But still, it pushes it to the other 46 counties. Just put billboards so that somebody might be interested and go, even if it's one person. That one person will come back with an experience to draw in 5 more people next season. When I was in Kisumu, there was this boat riding. What do you call it? Boat riding races. I didn't even know something was like. I was just walking by the lake. I just saw a mammoth crowd. People were just cheering and cheering and cheering. So I went there, and I found people were just racing, fishermen just racing those. And I'm like, this is a very interesting thing. And there are teams from Homa Bay, teams from Kindu Bay. They traveled with their team to support their team. You see, locally there, they know about it. But if I ask somebody in Nairobi right now, do you know there's such a thing in Kisumu? They tell you, I don't. So if you start small with such things, people now start appreciating. Like, I go to Mombasa not because of the beach, or I don't go to Kisumu because of the fish, because there's this. From that, now you can grow it outwards. Like, apart from this race, there's Kikmikai over there. There's this thing over there. There's that thing over there. So you say, let me go and see
Yes.
they have to offer.
I
And
completely. I like what you're saying, Trevor, and which is also what I was also trying to support Delisha when she was saying. Individual properties will dedicate a budget for marketing the property itself. But you see, nowadays, tourism is about experiences. It's experiential tourism. It's destination tourism. Destinations should be promoted by the governments. The county government, the national government, it should be the one that now the county government should be telling us about Kitmikai and what the story about Kitmikai and the other places that you can visit if you went to Kisumu County.
Even if you look at, for instance, sports, there's a rugby circuit, but you'll notice there are several rugby circuits that are much more popular than others.
Yeah.
If you talk about Prince Luke, everybody wants to rush to Nakuru. If you talk about Dallas Sevens, a couple of people go to Kisumu. If you talk about Masaku Sevens, everybody rushes to Machakos. Why? Because somehow somebody like Nakuru and Naivasha now, naturally, they don't even need to advertise. Every weekend, someone will say, let's go to Naivasha, let's go to Nakuru and do this and do that. They don't necessarily go to the high-end property, but at least that money that they have is still going to the Nakuru County. So if they start like that, maybe something good can grow from that position.
Thank you very much, Trevor. Very good point. Asante sana.
Okay, you're welcome.
Keep listening. We'll hear what the CS for Tourism will have to say about this in the next hour. This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation, coming up to 9 o'clock. City Muga, today's proverb.
Today's proverb: if you climb a tree, you must climb down the same tree.
Same tree.
Same.
Upende usipende, or when you want to climb.
Well, you could jump
To your
with interesting consequences.
imminent injury or death.
Okay. This is basically just saying mpandangazi ushuka, right?
Essentially.
It is the one.
Tashuka tu.
It's a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Remember, you can join the conversation as well on our social media platforms, Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Good morning. It's now coming up to 9 o'clock. Keep it right here. In the next hour, the Cabinet Secretary for Tourism and Wildlife, the Honorable Najib Balala, tells us what the ministry is doing and what the government has plans to do for the tourism industry post-COVID. Good morning.
Okay, we're going to go back to Kijabe, Kimende in that area because that's what is causing major problems this morning. Huge traffic jam that has been caused by a head-on collision just in that area, and traffic has tailed back kilometers because of this. It's a bad accident, and police are on the scene trying to sort that out. But if you're out of the city and going in that general direction, you need to be made aware that that is what is going on there, and it seems like it's going to be there for a while. It doesn't help matters that the fog is very dense and still quite low, even as at this hour of 9 o'clock. So just keep watch out for that. There's a black spot at Kenyatta Avenue, right in the middle of the CBD, between Kenyatta Avenue and Koinange Cross Junction. The lights are not working well. Accidents occurred 2 already this morning. So please, again, be careful. That's what we're seeing around major parts of the city. But for now, that's the worst of what we've seen so far. Everywhere else seems to be flowing along pretty smoothly. Mombasa Road, coming out of Westlands, coming off Langata Road, coming off Gong Road. Other than that, it looks all right. Jogo Road also looks good getting into the CBD. I don't think we'll see major issues coming out of Thika Road as it is. Outbound looks good. Inbound doesn't look too bad either. Spice FM KE. That's how you can reach us on Twitter.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political
Well, the
commentary
conversation
and
continues at
penetrating
2
insights about
and a
the
half
state
minutes
of the
after 9
nation.
o'clock.
This is a talk
Kenya's
radio
biggest
experience
conversation
like no
broadcast
other.
in Nairobi,
The Situation Room,
Mombasa, Kisumu,
a place for
Nakuru,
hard
Eldoret,
truth,
Nyeri, Malindi,
debates,
but also
and
worldwide.
elevated
We have
conversations.
people
The
listening and watching
Situation
to
Room,
us,
witty, political,
watching us
engaging,
everywhere,
deep,
in the world, on
controversial. In the room, we have
www.spicefm.co.ke, as
CT
well as on our social media
Muga,
handles.
researcher,
Spice FM KE,
academic,
we live
seasoned
stream on
political
Facebook,
observer,
we're on
a
YouTube,
fountain
we're
of
on
wisdom
Twitter.
in these
The
politically
conversation on
uncertain
tourism
times.
and the tourism
Ndu
recovery strategy
Oko,
continues.
Nigerian
We are
by birth,
discussing domestic
Kenyan by
tourism,
choice,
just like we had a
communications expert,
conversation with
Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and
this hour, as
Eric
we've been promising, we're
Latin,
going to have a
agent
conversation with
provocateur,
CS
the man in the chair, seasoned journalist,
He
news
has
hound.
spoken to us before here, and he has said the conversation and the message that he's giving to the local players is, look, guys, we are not going to have high numbers of the international tourists coming for a number of months. So let's start working on how we can attract the local market to visit our facilities, to visit our places. And he's held these conversations many times. He's even been quoted in other forums where he's saying, look, you guys need to think about how you're pricing the market, how you're pricing the products, and what you're doing about it. And the pushback that we got that we need to give to the CS from the operators is, if we got the support of the government in marketing local destinations, in marketing local tourism to the local market, then we'd also be able to really work hard. And other things that can flow with that the local market, domestic tourism market will thrive. Let's bring in the CS for tourism, Najib Balala. Good morning, Mheshimiwa.
Morning to you. How are you?
Salama kabisa. Thank you very much for speaking to us this morning.
My pleasure.
In the room, of course, is Eric Latif, CT Muga, and Ndu Oko.
Great.
Starting off the message from what you've been saying in various fora, especially in these times of COVID-19, domestic tourism. You've been championing domestic tourism and telling the local industry that this is one low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
And what's the kind of feedback that you get from them when you say this?
Well, first, let me just also introduce a subject, which is tourism is down globally, not only in Kenya. The countries that are going to survive this span of almost 1 year, because people fear to travel, long-haul destinations like Kenya will suffer. So it will be domestic tourism, not by choice, is by default. The chance that we did before, and we are lucky today, is because we have established the domestic market already. So we have an existing domestic tourism market. I developed it 10 years ago. It's not as perfect as it used to be, or it should be. It's because we have not invested enough in developing the domestic market. And all the players have assumed that if they have enough international clientele, probably domestic market is still too new. But I can tell you now, everybody have no choice but to go for the domestic market. I want to ask Kenyans, it's not just about the domestic market. Kenyans should be the first people to travel so that they can be able to open businesses that are Kenyan businesses. So it is us Kenyans to open our businesses and to support our economy rather than waiting for the international markets to come. It will come, but not now. Even when it comes, we should still pursue the issue of domestic marketing. The feedback I'm getting is that, first of all, there are quite a number of people have started traveling all over the country. Masai Mara is booming now because of the migration. The coast is trying as well as a small other pockets of Naivasha and all other areas. But again, I appeal to the industry. Can you please lower your prices? Can you make them not only just low, but let them be very affordable, that you encourage people to travel and develop the sense of traveling.
I have some questions around the lowering of prices, but before that, when you say you developed this domestic market or strategies for this 10 years ago, at that point, what did you have in mind?
Well, first of all, you need to diversify your markets, being domestic and international, because also of the challenges we are getting in the international markets every day. These countries, they issue travel advisories against Kenya or against Africa. The issue of resilience, the domestic market is more resilient than the international market. That's why we developed this market 10 years ago.
Now, looking at today, interestingly enough, just coming off a conversation with one of the practitioners, or rather one of the business owners in this area, in this industry, and they are very clear that what they need in order to be able to do a lot of this is government support. Now, if we talk about, all right, make it easier for Kenyans then to patronize these places by reducing the cost, they're of the opinion that they cannot do this without government intervention.
You know, the problem of Kenyans, the Naomba Serikali mentality, including tourism. I mean, really, what government support do you need? If you put a business which has all components. One, a proper investment, a proper staffing, and in terms of providing the service. And the third, you have a marketing strategy for your own business. We will only complement the marketing support. None of them have come forward and said, this is what we want. And I've offered, I said, listen, if you drop your prices properly and come with appropriate packages, we will market for you for free through the digital platform that we have developed at Kenya Tourism Board. None of them have come on this. So let them not be having this mentality in Naomba Serikali. It's your business, it's not government business. We have given you support by reducing VAT by 2% from 16 to 14. We have reduced corporate tax and also personal tax from 35 to 25, from 30 to 25. We have also given 1 billion shilling to the rangers in the community conservancies, where those conservancies are not shut down totally. They are actually manned by people who are Kenyans to protect the heritage. This is what government has done. So we want to work with the private sector and the hotel industry to say, you come with appropriate prices. I see people have opened hotels. They are still selling the same prices that were there in December or last year in August. So what price lowering have you done? You know, it's easy to say, come to my hotel, free accommodation, but pay for the food, and the price of the food, which is supposed to be with free accommodation, is the same price that you used to sell last year. The gimmick is wrong. We don't want gimmicks here. We want proper, and the suffering is going to be them, because the industry needs to be alive. If you shut down and you think you'll open after 1 year, you will lose your staff. You'll use the skills that you have invested to your staff. The infrastructure of that facility will break down. Then the reinvestment will be heavy.
But the kind of pushback that they give on that is, for example, now reopening in these COVID times comes with an investment. Already they've been out of business for 6 months, and they're now coming to reopen in the 7th month. What do they have to do? They have to take their staff for COVID-19 testing every 2 weeks, costing at least 1,000 shillings per staff, per member of staff, every 2 weeks. Then they also say we have had to invest in putting in the measures to fight COVID-19. We have to increase our cleaning capacity. We've got to put up all these hand sanitizers in all the places. And we are reducing the number of people that can sit in a restaurant, for example. So we are expecting to host a reduced number of people. This is already an investment that they've put in. They're saying, come on. So if we talk about reducing prices, it's already a cost. And many of them are saying we've already reduced our prices, are operating at a base price.
Well, my friend, 3 years ago, they did good businesses. And I can tell you, companies that have done proper saving, proper strategies, they will survive. Companies that did not do proper savings and proper strategies before, during the boom, they will not survive, because then they are not prepared. This investment is for themselves. And if you assume that you will not open, or you'll wait, or you don't reinvest, you lose business. Nobody is going to come to Kenya, or even Kenyans traveling to a facility that the owner or the proprietor has not taken health measures seriously. Because if somebody does not feel confident on that facility, they will not come. So this is a reinvestment for yourself and for your own businesses. It's not been easy, I can tell you, for all of us.
Yeah.
And I sympathize with them. Yeah. But we have to all take this protocol seriously. Otherwise, you cannot work and you cannot open up. And anyway, some of these values of cleanliness and hygiene has been there as one of the critical ingredients for the hospitality industry. So why don't they just enhance it, and they'll be able to get clientele? Also, the clientele are not going to be many, because even Kenyans fear. Yeah, people, they don't want to go places. We are scared to go to restaurants. Yeah, we are not too sure of the food. Even if yes, people are open, but they have that fear into them. So we are telling Kenyans, remove the fear. We have a very strong, vibrant private sector and hotel industry or restaurants. Yeah, please encourage to go there so that you can be able to support the economy. And people are trying. Yeah, remember, people who don't have money is not only the businesses, but even the travelers. People have got salary cuts.
Yep.
All of us took a salary cut, including myself.
Yep.
So even us, when we want to travel, we are cautious of spending, and we are going to look for deals, is because we don't have enough spending power.
Yep.
Our disposal money is limited because we had a salary cut. So everybody is a catch-22. It's a vicious circle. If you don't do this, you can't get this. So it is for me, it's a paradigm shift. Let's accept we have a domestic market. Let's accept we have a pandemic, that we need to address these issues. The minute you accept that way, there is no obstruction for you to do business in this country.
Taking that into consideration, then, CS, there's a problem. It has been caused by a certain thing. I mean, be bold enough to say that the tourism problem didn't start with COVID. Probably was there before, and I've heard you be very vocal on that previously. So, do you see the domestic market as a possible solution to the problems of the tourism industry in this country?
Actually, if we take domestic tourism seriously and we open regional tourism in this country, then we will be resilient forever.
Yep.
Because first, we have a market that is immediate, which is at home, that knows the propaganda in the media about travel advisories and about security and about threats are false. Yeah. So then you have a clientele that is not really living in fear, or not living in policies that are not guided with reality but political, so that they can be able to sustain the economy in tourism. And also, we have a huge population in Africa. We have 1.2 billion people. If we develop infrastructure to access to that market, we will have in 5 years' time 300 million people traveling within the continent of Africa. But this is the African Union agenda, and I've written to them and I've communicated to them, and I've said, Africa needs to look inwardly. We only received 71 million tourists in the continent of Africa. Why? And we are a huge continent. It's because we have not developed transport infrastructure. We have not put security measures in this place. We have not used technology. We have not have air connectivity and other connectivity with our countries and to our people. That's why we cannot capture that market. Yeah, we have a regime that is obstructive to the development of travelers in this continent, because an African coming to any African country needs vetting, needs a visa application 3 months in advance, while a foreigner from overseas will get a visa for free at the airport on arrival. So this is a mindset that we need to do, and is a market that we can develop, and we can be resilient and address the issues that we have been having all this time of travel advisors and others.
This conversation about intra-Africa travel has been there for many years, more than 15 years now. And it appears not to be moving anywhere. What is the problem? Is it a lack of political goodwill?
Well, first of all, yes, we need to walk the talk. Look at the investment we have done on SGR, Mombasa, Nairobi alone. SGR, the biggest clientele Mombasa has is from the SGR business. So that is already connectivity. Imagine if we have the SGR from Mombasa to Kigali. We will get people traveling safer, cheaper, it's affordable for the locals, and people will come and see. And they can stop in Kampala, they can stop in Kisumu, they can stop in Nairobi. All these points will benefit from tourism. But we don't have that infrastructure. South Africa, for example, they have the train network, but they have the air connectivity. They have low-cost airlines all over. You can travel from point 1 to point 2 for less than even $30. Here we can't do this because we have not yet developed the low-cost airlines as a model of business. It is because I have monopoly, I charge whatever I want to charge. You look at the cost of traveling by air to Masai Mara. Traveling by air to Masai Mara on a caravan, a small little plane, you have to pay over $200.
Right.
If I have to pay $200, I better look at an international vacation to go to. And this is where the challenge is. So we need to be realistic. We need to change our business models and say, my friends, it's about volumes.
But what role, CS, do the governments play in this? For example, you're talking about the linkages from Rwanda to Kenya. Conversations within even the East African community. Why is it so expensive for a Kenyan airline to land in Tanzania or to land in Rwanda or in Uganda?
For regional tourism to be able to pick up, we need government policies in the real sense. But we need also the proactiveness of the private sector and the aggressiveness of the private sector to want to do it. For example, we already have an open policy even within East Africa. But everybody is used to this monopolistic behavior of, I'm the only one traveling to let's say Kigali or to Arusha. So I will charge whatever to is demand and supply. No. Look, I want to give you an example. Look at Morocco. Morocco, to come from Europe to fly into Casablanca or to fly into Marrakesh is only $50, 50 euros per one way. So 10,000 shillings, you leave 4 hours flight, from a European destination. You can even go for a weekend. And then the accommodation is affordable. There is the 5-star hotels, but also there is the $50 hotels. So what happened to this mass market? They come there, they stay in apartments or they stay in hotels that are $50, but all their food and entertainment is outside where the local people directly engage in these businesses. So the local economy flourishes because of this segment of the market. So we want to develop all segments because we have 50 million people in this country. If we depend on small and very few, even the 2 million people that are coming in this country, I'm not happy with that. We have the capacity to have 5 million people in this country. But we also know the dynamics. We are long-haul destinations. The biggest cost of travelers is airlines or air connectivity. Again, I think we need to do more in terms of infrastructure network within the country. We need to make our product affordable for all segments. We can have a 2,000 hotel accommodation, but also we should have a $50 hotel accommodation in this country. And it should be of standard, not just any Juakali hotel accommodation.
Bwana Waziri, do I hear you, do I understand you to say that many of the players in our tourism industry have more or less priced themselves out of competition?
Exactly, and certainly, yes. They have outpriced themselves because they think they will just get it. And probably we were spoiled by having a an existing market, which is the international market. And the international market to come to Kenya is a lifetime travel. So do we want people to come only once in this country and never again? No. We want people to be repeaters. Repeaters are the ones who could be are the most resilient clientele for our destination. If we have people who come only once in their lifetime, then this economy will not be sustainable.
So in the strategy that you developed about 10 years ago, and I'm sure you have had a chance to look at it and review it and maybe in some instances revise, what role does the local investor play and what role does the government play in promoting domestic tourism?
Actually, the role is the private sector. Government only gives policies. And when we develop these policies, we also involve the private sector to be in the driving seat. So government is limited. You look at ourselves. Mm-hmm. We have reduced KWS park entry fees by 50%. Mm-hmm. Why? We want to encourage people to go to the parks. And not only for domestic market, but also for the international market. Because we know this will be a difficult year. Mm-hmm. But for us, if the volumes are going to be critically enough high, then we don't need even to increase our rates in the next coming years.
Yep.
Because we have the right volumes. Again, the government gives policies. You take the advantage of those policies and convert them into a business model that works for you. Mm-hmm. I think we need to engage much more with the private sector, and probably this is the time we should actually look at the domestic market, not as a secondary option, but as a primary for sustainability and resilience.
Waziri, some of our listeners have aired a certain view that I'd like you to consider and comment on, and they say that, yes. I mean, prior to COVID, some of our hotels, I presume the high-end ones, they say some people have faced discrimination. Is this a thing of the past? Because I think it is. Or is it something that you've also heard of from time to time?
No. First, I don't think there's discrimination. But there is something which is called a perception or a complex or an attitude. And I've told the industry, please, we are going to a domestic market. Can we change our mindset so that we appreciate the domestic market, which has a different taste of services, of products, and everything else, and we need to address those tastes of the domestic market. Yeah, and we start looking at clients or visitors or travelers not of their color or their nationality. Look at them as just a client that you need to give service, and they pay for that service. So it is a paradigm shift, and it's true. When you go to a hotel or to a restaurant, yeah, mm-hmm. I don't think is a big issue now. But before, if you go to a hotel or a restaurant and you are local, even the attitude of the workers or the staff who serve you have an issue against you.
Yeah.
But even the Mzungu, every time they come, they say, Jambo, Jambo. But if it is a local, even us, when we are told Jambo, you don't know why is he greeting me every time, this guy. Yeah. You know, it is a two-way system. We Kenyans probably have a complex. And when we go there, we don't know how to fit. Or even the staff, when they come to their attitude towards us, they think we are lower than the Mzungus. So these are the things that it will take time, and eventually it will go. But we have almost neutralized that attitude. Slowly we are moving forward. And I want to encourage this to be more.
But Waziri, there's something I would also like to ask. You see, talking of government, say, contribution to it, if I look at, say, a place like Lamu and the tourism that is in Lamu, which in my opinion is considerable, part of the problem that has perhaps caused a decline is security. And that is only the government who can actually, should I say, make that security problem go away. That's one. Two, our parks as they currently exist are not really friendly for individuals who drive around. The road network is really genuinely safari. Now, these again are things that only the government can intervene in, or have I got it wrong?
I think you're right. Government has a bigger role, and also private sector has a dynamic, proactive role to do. Yeah. First of all, I want to clear one thing. Lamu has no security problem. There is the Lamu County, then there is Lamu as the island or where the tourism is and the destination.
Okay.
When you go to Shela and you go to Lamu Island, there's no security problem. But yes, the perception of Lamu is because there is a bombing in Kiunga or on the border or in Boni or in Dodori, then there is a problem of perception. But I know Lamu very well. I don't think I have a problem to go to Lamu, and I will go to Lamu.
Yeah.
Shela is the most peaceful area. Lamu town itself is most peaceful. But if I go outside those parameters, then I am risking my life. But it's a perception, and it's something that we need to correct. And I agree with you. Yes, safari probably is not designed for us who want to take an easy life vacation. It's supposed to be for ruggedness and adventure. And that's why all these national parks are designed to be rough. But in the name of roughness, we have not invested in proper infrastructure and roads. That's why we are doing this management plan for Nairobi National Park. You go to Nairobi National Park today, you'll see the improvement of infrastructure that we have already started. But we have neglected most of these national parks before, because we want to say, oh, you call this agony of
it's an
the,
authentic
of the
safari.
And the safari, and you say, oh, welcome to the African massage.
Yeah.
I mean, really. We are cheating people. You have bad roads, except you have bad roads. Oh, this is African massage. But you are breaking my back. And today with the Millennium segment, people want easy life. They don't want to spend 8 hours looking for a lion.
Yep.
They want to spend 1 hour. They want to go to the pool to hang around. They want to upload their internet. If your lodge has no internet, or you're telling me, oh, we want to give privacy to people so that, I mean, rubbish. I mean, what privacy? Give me the internet as a right. It's me to choose I use it or not.
Yeah.
But it's a short way or shortcut of the business investment that we are talking about. But yes, we need to change.
Yeah.
We need to change. We need to have proper infrastructure in the national parks. We need to have proper facilities in our lodges and hotels, like internet, for example. And in fact, why should we charge for internet in hotels? It should be part of the cost. Because internet, let me tell you, you go to take your keys in a lodge or in a hotel, the next thing you ask, what's the password? Yeah.
It's a first thing, actually.
It's a human right. Internet has become a human right because it's a way of how you communicate to your beloved ones and how you communicate to your businesses. Like now, I'm talking to you. If I don't have a broadband, I would have been disconnected with you.
Yep.
I'm working from home. It doesn't matter. I will be in Masai Mara probably, but my business talking to you continues.
If these conversations are being had, Waziri, now between government, for example, and the industry, the tourism industry in this country, I mean, it's like a conversation is being had and it will be unfolded. Are we talking real time now for things to be unfolded in the next couple of months? What are we looking at in terms of timelines? If we're saying the salvation of the industry is in the hands of the domestic market, when are we likely to see some of these things being rolled out?
We've started as government. We are now investing in Nairobi National Park as a model. We want to build infrastructure. We want to develop the experience of a visitor to be much better. We want to have facilities, toilet. We have to have eateries. Everything that the clientele wants, we want to facilitate that. So we have started with Nairobi National Park, and we are going to move to 10 other parks into the country. Yeah. So we already started, but I can tell you, this pandemic has also an opportunity. We have a market already at home. It's not complicated.
Yep.
We don't have to invest too much money to get it because it is just within the country. So the investment of marketing is not that huge.
Yep.
But we need also to change the product so it fits for that market.
Right.
Yeah. For example, if you give me all this touristic food every day when I come for 2 weeks holidays in your hotel, and I don't even have a cuisine that I can relate to, then you lose me because I get tired of the same food that you always give to the tourists, the foreign tourists. So you need to know my palate. You need to know how I behave. Probably I'm not the guy who is going to spend 6 hours in the sun basking because my color is, I have enough pigment of from the sun.
You need other experiences, yes.
Give me an activity in the hotel so that I become busy. Also, Kenyans' behaviors needs to change. We don't have to go for a vacation, and the job of a vacation is just to drink beer and just eat nyama choma and just lazing around in a corner. No.
But
it's
the pushback,
the
pushback there that I'll give you, Bonasias, is it's the experience and how it's packaged. If the industry and even the agency that promotes tourism in the country, KTB, are not promoting experiences and experiential travel, then our mindset is not going to change. For instance, right now, as we're speaking, we have the twin migration. There's a migration of the wildebeests in the Masai Mara, and we have the whales that are coming from Antarctica to the coast of Kenya in Watamu. They are starting to arrive. How much marketing has that been done locally? Do people in Kenya know that we have whales that come to Kenya, that you can actually see a whale in Kenya? How much has that been done? If we look at the other markets and the other products that we have around the country, beyond the beach and the game park, what other products do we have? And we have very many. Like you just talked about cuisine. We can visit a place just to go and enjoy their cuisine. We see the Lamu Cultural Festival. It happens every year. What kind of support does the KTB give to the Lamu County government going to visit our mountains? We see the Camel Derby every year. How much support do we see in that?
To be fair, I don't want to be defensive. We have done a lot of programs on digital, on experiences, no longer about just the country. So we have developed even signature experiences. We have also called for workshops with the private sector. Tell them, these are the experiences. These are 20 experiences in the countries. Let's market them together with this script. And we have engaged. The only thing that delayed us or stopped us was this COVID-19 this year. So we launched this. Remember, I launched these experiences in December last year. It's called the signature experience.
Yes.
So we launched them properly. The Lamu Festival, for example. I am the founder of the Lamu Festival 20 years ago. And Kenya Tourism Board has always supported the Lamu Festival. So we do it in a big day. The Camel Derby, we were supposed to be the key supporters this year. But again, COVID-19 has affected. I was there last year. So we are developing that. But I agree with you, we are yet to discover our country and bring that product in the face of our clientele. We were spoiled. I agree with you. We were spoiled. We were just concentrating internationally. But I have directed Kenya Tourism Board this year. The only marketing they will do is domestic marketing.
Oh, bravo.
And they are coming up with clarity of how do we address the domestic market. So that clarity also is being defined very clear. But I want your help, guys. The help I need from you is we need to remove this mentality, naomba serikali. It's easy to point a finger on government, but not point a finger of the sustainability of your own model of business in the private sector. So let's change the mentality. When these guys come in, or just put them in a corner and tell them, guys, yes, government maybe has failed here. What are you doing to actually survive as a business?
Indeed.
Because if government has failed on one side, you will fail if you don't strategize yourself properly. But government actually has taken the lead in one of the, for example, discounting the national park. It's government who did it, not private sector. I have also made a statement in public, reduce your prices. Nobody has done it.
They don't do it. And it's actually, it's even shocking to hear. It's shocking to hear, Bonasias, that even with all the associations that you have not had any kind of conversation coming from them. We have various associations operating for this. We have the Hotel Keepers Association, we have the Tour Operators Associations. None of them has come to tell you, okay, this is the best we can do, but we need your support in this and that and the other to reduce our prices.
I've engaged on a few individual hoteliers. The figures I was given, when I look at them, and me, I'm a smart guy. I do my research, my friend. I went back. I look at the prices they were selling last year. It's the same prices last year they were selling. So the figures are not genuine. They say, oh, this is break even. But how come last year the same price formula you used?
Yeah.
So I said, my friend, this time is not about making profit or breaking even. This time is to have cash flow for you to sustain to pay your electricity bill.
Staying afloat.
Even today, despite I have a pay cut, I must pay my electricity bill.
Yep.
Despite I have a pay cut, I must pay my rent. So these are the things that is the mindset that we need to do. Yeah. So we told the guys, you come with proper serious packages. We will do the marketing for free as Kenya Tourism Board. Yeah. So yes, they have a problem. They have cash flow problem. They have done losses for the last 4, 5 years or 5, 6 months. Yeah. We sympathize with them. We need them to be more proactive.
Yeah.
I think we are most of them or all of us. We are in this comfort zone that we feel we can do only a bit and it will pick up. It's easy to say, we have these bombings every day, we are resilient. Then after 6 months, we are back to business the same way.
Usual.
Yes, because you have an aggressive minister called Najib Balala. Otherwise, you'll be back to the same way.
But yes, let's take a quick break.
But I mean it. And I say, yes, let's be proactive. We all have a role. We all have responsibility, including me as a minister and the government to do our role. Yeah.
Tongue in cheek.
We all have responsibility. Don't wait for the other until they do it and then I'll do it. No. Let's do it things concurrently. If I have failed as a government, what have you done to succeed? Yeah. But here I'm telling you that the government has been more proactive than even the private sector. Yeah, because we went ahead, we did discounting of our parks at a huge loss. But we said, let's do it and spar. For example, I want to share with you. We gave rent-free to all our lodges for 1 year. Rent-free for 1 year.
To whom?
All our lodges in our national parks, we have 23 national parks.
Yep.
Everybody who rents the place there, we have given them a moratorium for 1 year rent-free. Yeah?
That's a huge cost already removed.
Already, I have helped you.
Yep.
So I'm telling you, take this money, reinvest it in your lodge, and refresh your lodge, and then start marketing that specific park.
Yeah.
Don't wait for us. Yeah? So, but again, I want to see that. From 1st of July, I said, this is our policy. So they will take up. Some of them are very aggressive and some of them are doing a good job. Yeah, I don't want to generalize. Yeah. But again, it has to be the whole sector. It cannot be just a few of us. Yeah. And the rest they don't follow. It will not work. It will not work.
It has to be a concerted effort. CS Najib Balala, thank you very much for speaking to us this morning. And continue engaging with the industry stakeholders. What we want to see, of course, in the end is that we have a thriving private sector and we also have a thriving domestic tourism market.
Thank you very much, my friends. And I can tell you that government will always be facilitative, at least from the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife. I have an open door policy. I engage with all the stakeholders on daily basis, on a personal name sharing. So they know me and I'm ready to listen to all what they want. Yeah, but again, it is a business. It's a mind shift.
Right.
Yeah. It's a paradigm shift because of the pandemic. Let's take advantage rather of looking at it as a problem.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and we can move together and better for our own businesses, but also better for this country.
True. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Asante. 20 minutes to 10 o'clock is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Time for a break.
will see highs of 24 and lows of 11 today, with partly cloudy conditions through most parts of today. All right, 16 degrees in Nyeri and mostly cloudy. We'll see highs of 21 with thunderstorms in the evening. Nakuru, 17 degrees and partly cloudy, highs of 21 and lows of 12 with thunderstorms later. In Eldoret, it's 16 degrees and partly cloudy. We will see thunderstorms here as well, highs of 19 and lows of 11. It's 22 degrees and partly cloudy in Kisumu, highs of 25 and lows of 18. Kakamega at 19 degrees with partly cloudy through most of today. Rains expected in the afternoon with highs of 23 and lows of 14. Let's take a look into Malindi, where it's sunny all through today. Cloudy conditions, however, later with highs of 28 and lows of 24. It's sunny conditions in Mombasa at 26 degrees. We'll see highs of 28 and lows of 23. Kampala is mostly cloudy at 21 degrees. Thunderstorms expected later with highs of 24 and lows of 18. All right, let's take a look into Dar es Salaam, where it's sunny conditions, mostly sunny for most parts of today at 24 degrees, highs of 29 and lows of 21. Into Joburg, where currently we're at 4 degrees. We will see highs of 17 and lows of 3. Likelihood to warm up a little bit throughout the day. All right. The rains are coming down in Lagos at 25 degrees. Mostly sunny conditions will follow, and then back into rain. Highs of 29 and lows of 23. All right. Let's look into Europe quick. In Paris, it's cloudy conditions at 18 degrees. We'll see highs of 27 and lows of 17. Looking into London then, where it's mostly cloudy today at 18 degrees. Highs of 25 and lows of 17. And then this Friday morning in New York, it's partly cloudy at 25. There'll be rains in the afternoon. Highs of 30 and lows of 23. All right, things haven't changed much. It's still looking pretty all right for now. We will probably see that traffic will die down in a few minutes. It's still a bit crazy outside of the city, however. Heading towards Naivasha in that area, Sokomjinga, outside Kimende. There's a problem there today because of the major accident that took place there, and that traffic has built up as a result of that. So that's where we see major things going on. Other than that, it is all right. Likely to not pick up again until later in the day. You can always get through to us in case something does happen. Let us know. Spice of MKE on Twitter. Have a safe day as you travel through.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM. Traffic.
At 10:15 this Friday.
It is.
Hey.
That's how the thing is doing you.
Where? Yes. So, well, you just heard from the CS for tourism, and before that, we had from a private sector player on the issue of domestic tourism. What do you make of the two conversations?
Well, it's interesting because it seems to be that in terms of consensus and what needs to be done, there's very little right now.
It's like they're speaking from different...
Totally different sides or ends of the spectrum.
Why?
Because, I mean, one is saying that we need the government to be able to do something to allow us then to lower the prices.
Yep.
Another one is saying, look, we've done what we need to do. You also need to step into the ring and make an effort. So, I mean, it seems like there needs to be consensus. And at the end of the day, it seems that everybody is targeting this unit, which at some point is the tourist who is going to come in and save the situation, as it were. However, I think that the end goal is the same for both. The MO, however, then needs to be seriously looked at. Yes?
Is that yes a question or a statement?
Oh, here it can be anything. No.
I'm
listening to you with my eyes.
No, I finished now.
Yes. Yes, CT.
Oh, when I encountered this tragic news, death is always tragic. There's nothing like a timely death. It's always tragic of the former president of Tanzania. I believe he was the third president. What came to my mind is the role he played, a very major role he and Kofi Annan in this country in 2007, 2008. He was one of the people who was actually very instrumental in bringing about peace when we seem to be actually falling apart at the very, very seams as a nation. He wasn't a controversial man, was he? Because I remember his presidency seemed to have, well, as a Kenyan, of course, seemed to have gone, should I say?
Rather smoothly.
Quietly, yes. Because the person who came after him, that presidency wasn't that smooth.
Who? Jakaya Mrisho's?
Yes. Yes.
Why?
Well,
how do you compare Mkapa's to Ali Hassan Mwinyi's, for instance?
Ali Hassan Mwinyi had people who you heard a little noise about him. Not too much, but you always had people feeling that there were noises coming from, as was reported within the nation. Now, there are those who argue that Mkapa had the advantage of having been a media person. So he knew how to handle himself and he knew how to handle the media. The noise I'm talking about has to do, to perhaps give a better example, Jakaya Kikwete and the current president, there's a lot of noise where these two people are concerned. It's like one has surpassed the other. And from within the country. Maybe it's the time that they lived in when perhaps the political spaces were opening up and people had more room to say more than they had previously said before. But that's the point from which I'm coming. Not that one president was more effective or efficient or better than the other. It's just that during his reign, one didn't hear too much noise. He seemed to be a president who was liked and seemed to get along.
Well, he wasn't just liked in Tanzania. You just also get regionally within the East African bloc, and then regionally in other parts of the continent, he was liked because, you remember him for his mediation efforts. He was instrumental in the mediation that took place during the 2007-2008 post-election standoff. And I think that's one of the things that stood out for the work that he did. So very much liked by Tanzanians, very much loved by Tanzanians. And so it was interesting that you said that his reign seemed to have, or his rule, his service in Tanzania seemed to have been free of a lot of drama, as it were. The 2 terms that he served seemed to go by rather smoothly. And you see then his injection of peace and mediation throughout the region.
Actually, when you think about it, people don't ask a warmonger to be a mediator.
No.
Hardly. Because you simply represent the sort of infraction that someone may not particularly want in their country. And also, it means that he was somebody who was considered agreeable. Remember, we even had renowned personalities from South Africa. We had Mbeki was also here. You see? There are many other people behind the scenes.
The eminent African personalities. And I think he was, among them, there was him, there's Kaunda from Zambia, and all these leaders, Anko from Nigeria.
What's his name?
What's his name? Legendro. Olusegun Obasanjo.
Yes.
Right? And the kind of role that they played. I'm going back to that point where you're talking about his reign seemed to have been a very rather quiet and peaceful. And
Yes.
I think also it's also the times that he was in, right? Because looking at the first president of Tanzania, and by the time he was deciding, mimi nangatuka uongozini, and decided to step down, and Ali Hassan Mwinyi also came in. Ali Hassan also was, that kind of
mellow leader
coming into Benjamin Mkapa. And now in the years of Jakaya Kikwete, there's a lot of now opening up of it was happening Africa-wide. There's more seeking for liberalism, more openness of a society, and Jakaya had to play that role as well of just allowing the more vibrant noises to come in and the agitation. But it was also a rather peaceful reign, if you think about it. Yes, there was opposition. There was the issues, the scuffles with Zanzibar in terms of what role are we
hasn't
playing?
ended, by the way.
It's still there even now,
ended.
right?
Quiet, but it hasn't ended.
It's still there, back and forth. A long push from the Zanzibaris on their role in this muungano, and others saying, no, we want complete to secede and to rule ourselves. But that conversation has always been there. Benjamin Mkapa was he served in that time when he was quiet. Then they stepped out of office, and they're just all quiet. A photo was circulating last month of the former presidents. No, actually, the former presidents in Parliament when
during the COVID, yes.
Yes, when the president was going to close Parliament as we were going into elections, the president is there, current President Magufuli, or the former presidents are there. From Jakaya to Mkapa to Ali Hassan Mwinyi, and they're sitting peacefully like wazee wa mtaa, and you think, this is lovely.
A couple of blokes enjoying a moment.
This is just lovely, just to see former presidents sitting down, and they're easy. They're not coming here with so much airs of I am a former president. Yeah.
It's interesting. I think the same that would be said about the same that would be said about him now in his death, as is often the common practice, would be similar to what would be said when he was alive. You wouldn't see a far cry. You wouldn't see accolades of praise for him now that he's gone that would be different from what was said even to his face and about him when he was alive. That's why you would see that he would be called upon for these things around the continent and in other parts of the world, because there was a recognition of his ability and capability to be able to lend a hand when it came to things like mediation. And that was lauded while he was alive. And I think it's a good example of how you can do that for somebody. And it doesn't have to be that when the person or when a leader like this passes, then suddenly things jump out of the woodwork as to who or he was or what he was able to do. And you could see examples of those when he was alive in terms of the work that he did.
We're talking about former Tanzanian President Benjamin Mkapa, who passed away the day before yesterday. And the announcement was made last night by the President John Pombe Magufuli. Let's just listen to that. Benjamin William Mkapa played a role in the mediation in 1998.
There's something else that comes to mind, the role that political parties play. Chama cha Mapinduzi was a strong party when Julius Nyerere was there, Ali Hassan Mwinyi was there. It was still a strong party. Even when Mkapa was there, it was still not just strong, very dominant.
Yep.
But I guess, as you say correctly, given the times, by the time Jakaya Kikwete came in, yes, it was still a dominant party, but other people had felt that they could do better or they could improve on what was there. After Jakaya Kikwete, it became definitely louder. And usually that happens. It's not as though this totally new party. People within the party
just
move
splinter.
out.
They
Yeah.
move Form another party.
Yes, and they usually, because there's some internal disagreement as to who should take what position and who should go where. Yes, that disagreement, a new party is formed.
The role that he played in Kenya in 2008, when he was among them with Kofi Annan and Jakaya Kikwete himself. That time he was the AU president, having taken over from John Kufuor of Ghana around the same time when we were still having violence. It's something that we appreciate ourselves.
It's interesting because he was I remember this clearly because he made a suggestion and he said that these two need to have a conversation amongst themselves. And he asked that Martha Karua and William Ruto leave.
Yeah, you step aside.
And many said that because of that, that's why there was able to be some sort of consensus. And the suggestion came from him. He's the one who actually said it. You know what? There are too many people in the room, as it were. Remove all of these people and let these two have a conversation. And it is seen that because of that suggestion, that's when now you had the decision that was made that then led towards the accord and then peace thereafter.
That particular modus operandi was to be followed on other occasions as well. When the coalition wasn't coalescing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And the two principals once again sat. And the two of them.
Yeah.
And chatted. Left out the noise, chatted. And somehow a path was charted and they moved forward.
Yeah.
He understood. When such people are referred to as wise old men, the sentiment and the expression is not wasted. It's actually very accurate.
Yeah.
Yes.
True.
He saw and understood.
So we're coming to the end of the show for the week. Seiti Muga, as we do that, give us today's proverb.
If you climb up a tree, up. So no story of cutting the tree. Up. It's upright. You must climb down the same tree. But as I said, if you think you're athletic and energetic, jump and enjoy the consequences that will definitely follow.
What's the context of this? What's the meaning of this proverb?
You see, we talk about a path well trodden, and there are many sayings around this sort of thing. But the simple, not salient, the simple meaning is this. You really must understand the importance of the people around you. It isn't just the path. And you must understand the role they play at every stage of your life. Whether you are in high society or low society, in the middle, you must never underestimate this because they never stop being where they are. Yes.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much for tuning in to the Situation Room this week. Join us again next week, Monday to Friday, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Yeah, of course, you'll be with Monique from today. What time?
2
to 7. 3 to 7.
3 to 7, sorry.
3 to 7 o'clock is Spice Drive. And then the adults in the room will be here later in the morning. It's 10 o'clock.
Evening.
And again, good morning. It's now 10 o'clock. Goodbye. Nduoko, it's a Friday. Go home.